Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. The Dallas Mavericks 109, the Minnesota Timberwolves 108. What a game. If you watched it live and you saw Rudy Gobert switch out to Luka Doncic 106, 108, I tell you, everyone in the world knew that three was going up. And frankly, the minute it went up, everyone in this world should have known that three was going in. 3 seconds to go. Anthony Edwards can't make anything happen. Nas Reed misses a shot. And just like that, the sudden championship favorites are down 0-2 in the Western Conference Finals. A lot to break down, a lot of Luka mastery, a lot of Kyrie mastery tonight, a lot of Karl Anthony Towns trying to isolate one-on-one against PJ Washington and then eventually getting benched in the fourth quarter, deservedly, for Nas Reed, who was spectacular. You get a masterful Mike Conley game, and you get a polarizing Anthony Edwards game. A lot of people want to throw Anthony Edwards under the bus after this game. Frankly, I think that's crap. So we're going to talk about that. But first, let's go to Luka, and then we're going to go to Anthony Edwards. And we're going to talk about the game. All right. Hold on. Pull technical difficulties. Pull it back up. Here we go.
So he can't effing guard you, huh?
Sorry?
He can't effing guard you?
Who said that?
You said that.
I didn't say
it. Okay, that's about as funny a start to a press conference as I've ever seen. All right, nice.
I was speaking Slovenian.
Take us through what you're looking for that last play, kind of how it developed, and just the emotion after that shot goes through.
I don't decide what I'm going to look before the play. I just see what defense gives me. I didn't expect that we're going to switch. We're just going to play that pick and roll. I told you live. Come and we'll just figure out from there. That's about it. Read the defense.
Luka, what was the approach in the last minute 29? You guys went from being up to being, I think, down 5. You had the challenge on the baseline. Kyrie hit a shot. You hit that, like, the poise that you guys have. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, like I always say, stay together, positive energy. At some point, we're down 18 on the road, which is insane to come back. So we believe till the end of the buzzer.
Jason said that there was no plan necessarily to go for a 2 or 3 during that. When do you make a decision that I'm going to go for the step back? Was it when you got the switch on Rudy? Was it just all instinct?
I don't really know. I can't answer that. I just saw some space, decided to shoot a 3. Get to my spot, step back. That's it. But I just decided, I saw some space.
Jason talked about the good talk you had at halftime. What was the gist of that, and what was the biggest change or biggest adjustment you guys made?
I think we talk about that last 3-4 minutes we play with energy. We said we need to play like that. We're getting stops, especially boxing out, and then our pace got to be high. So those 3-4 minutes we took as example.
And your thoughts right now on being up 2-0 in a series, 2 wins from the NBA Finals?
Great, but like I say, first to 4, nothing is won. We gotta just think about next game, not in the future, not in the present. This game, so we just gotta think about next game. That's it.
You went to the locker room real quick at the end of the first. You good?
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, you've had a lot of game winners now throughout your career. Do you know where this one ranks? Is it way too soon to even start thinking about this?
Too soon.
Yeah.
No, I'm tired. I can't even think.
Well, do you have a favorite that comes to mind when you think about all the different ones you've hit over the years?
No. I think the one in the bubble was pretty good. But no crowd. I imagine that with crowd would be insane. Then the one in where? Memphis, yeah.
The falling down, the one-hander.
That was a tough shot. And no crowd again, too, so I think those 2.
And then last one, when Nas Reed got the final shot off and it was in the air, what were you thinking as it was traveling there?
I wasn't thinking. I almost passed out. That was looking good, too good. Sure.
Especially for
Yeah. Oh my God. He could have missed today.
But you had more success attacking downhill in the second half. What opened up for you to be able to have that success?
Let me think. Just driving mentality, you know. I don't know, man. I don't know. You asked me some other question. I don't know. I was just attacking. I don't know. You have any other question?
What have you thought about the play of Derek Lively, him closing out the game? What are your thoughts on that?
There we go. No, amazing. You know, he's been amazing this season, these playoffs. He took now 1, not 2, 3 steps forward. He's a rookie. I think people forget this sometimes. He's doing this in the Western Conference Finals, which is insane. So his ceiling is going to be huge. Yes. All right, guys.
All right. If y'all caught this, let's just go down just quickly before we get to Anthony Edwards and whatever he had to say tonight. Just take a look at this, right? This is the final play. Well, the game was over after this. Basically, Luka says didn't know if they were going to go for a 2 or a 3. Yeah, it does depend on whether Rudy Gobert is going to run him off the line, and he had just enough time to dance. There was 12 seconds on the clock, right? So we start out here. The play is we're at 9.6 seconds here. Jaden McDaniels gets clung on to Derek Lively. Now, again, important here. They are very reluctant to switch when Derek Lively is a roll man. They are more willing to switch when Daniel Gafford is a roll man. Why? Because Derek Lively is a better decision maker than Daniel Gafford. It's just that simple. They're both elite, rim finishers and guys who are capable of catching lobs. But Derek Lively is just that extra something, even as a rookie, that they are reluctant, that he has a lot of gravity when he darts down. So here, the only way this play can get fucked up is if Derek Lively tries to come up and set a screen. And he doesn't. He dives, which is great. So now Jaden McDaniels goes with him, which completely puts Rudy Gobert on an island. Now, at this point, you would ask yourself, what the hell is Rudy Gobert even doing on the court? But you needed him on the court. But should somebody else perhaps have had this assignment? They forced a switch right on the inbound. And now Rudy Gobert is stuck on an island with Luka Doncic down 2. So basically, you're at home and you can do absolutely everything in the world to avoid the 3. You could foul. I mean, that would be crazy. Down, up 2 fouling would be crazy. But you cannot give up a 3. That's literally the last thing. Now, if you're the Dallas Mavericks, different thoughts, right? Conservatively, if you don't have Luka Doncic, you don't have Kyrie Irving, let's say your star player is Devin Booker or someone like that, then maybe you do go for the tie and just try to extend it. But frankly, the home team almost always has an advantage in the overtime, right? So even with Rudy Gobert facing foul trouble, right? So here you go. Now, Luka just dances. So we've got 3 seconds that have gone off the clock here. And I'm just showing you the pictures because I can't show you the video because I'm not trying to get demonetized here. And Luka puts him on skates. And now Rudy Gobert is probably right now he's trying his best. And frankly, he did pretty good. He did a pretty good job. This is Luka Doncic though, right? So he tries to stay with him. He tries to stay somewhat connected, tries to get up, close enough with his length to be able to contest the 3. But this is Luka. Luka's got range. He's not the greatest three-point shooter. He's not Steph Curry, but he does have the range to hit the big ones. And frankly, he's just going to dance. And if you get too close to him, he's going to drive past you. And now you got Naz Reid in the corner. You got down low, but then you got Kyrie Irving in the corner. And if he goes right here, I guarantee you that's a 3 for Kyrie Irving, right? So if Rudy Gobert plays this slightly differently, I'm sure that Rudy Gobert is probably thinking, I should have tried to run him off the line. Yeah, good luck. Where are you running him off to? He's going to go right. And he's going to go right. And if he gets right, he's going right to the rim. You're not stopping him. Naz Reid is not stopping Luka Doncic at the rim. So he's left just enough time right here on the court. And again, all of these decisions are being made in microfractions of a second. But right here, he shakes him. And this is where Rudy Gobert fucks up because he plays him for the drive. He goes left, goes right, crosses him over, and boom, Rudy Gobert is off balance. And that's all she wrote. That's too much space. Rudy Gobert is almost 1 foot in the paint, and Luka Doncic is a foot behind the line. That's about 8 feet of space. Now, even though you have a 7'7" wingspan, that's Luka Doncic. He's a 6'7" guy himself. You're not going to block this shot. And that was game. He hits it. And I'm not saying that's everything. That wasn't everything. That's not negating Kyrie Irving's, I believe, 13 points in the fourth quarter. He was awesome apart from missing those 2 free throws, which he made up for right away by hitting the go-ahead three. There's a lot to talk about with this game. Let's get to Anthony Edwards. Another technical difficulty. Let's try that again. Anthony Edwards, round 2. Okay. All right. Nice. More bulletin board material for the Dallas Mavericks. Jeez. All right. Let's talk about this game. Who did what? Okay. So obviously, if you're going to focus in on this game and you're going to start looking at, field goal percentages and whatnot, you're going to hone in right on the field goal percentage of Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns, who combined go 9 for 33. That is not a typo. That is not a mistake. They went 9 for 33. Okay. Anthony Edwards goes 5 for 17. He does get to the line 10 times. Rudy Gobert, he was 6 for 10. They forced the ball into him quite a few times, made him a bit of a decision maker on offense, not to his best, but Jaden McDaniels kind of comes down to earth a little bit on the shooting. 0 for 3 from 3. We had a crazy Jaden McDaniels game last game where he couldn't miss from 3. And I'm like, this is not a recipe for continued success. These are flukes. They happen. It's just like PJ Washington having 28-point games back to back and people starting to say, is he the next Klay Thompson? No, it is a fucking, byproduct of teams ganging up and making PJ Washington a shooter. But that's just a byproduct. That's what role players do, man. Role players do that. Just because Derek Fisher has a 22-point game doesn't mean he's like the best point guard in the league. You know what I mean? So I just feel like the the Minnesota Timberwolves have decided that their defense is so good that they are going to try and live with one-on-one. They're gonna live with Kyrie and Luka killing them, but they're not going to let the other guys get off, right? So they're not going to have those 28-point games. And they tried this with Nikola Jokic in Game 5. They got killed, right? I think Jokic had like 40 plus points, and then they went right back to doubling him. They might have to start blitzing a little bit, but the problem is it's not so easy to blitz Luka. It's just not. He is so gifted. He exploits everything, no matter how great your help rotation is. He and Kyrie are just on a completely different level in terms of, what they see on the court and how well they orchestrate. There's this old adage, great offense beats great defense. The problem is here, I'm not really sure which of these teams are actually the moniker of great defense, because frankly, they're both great. And since the Dallas Mavericks got their additions of Daniel Gafford and, Derek Lively has taken a step up. Derek Jones, has taken a massive step into the starting lineup. I feel like they might be the better defense here, which is kind of crazy to say because a lot of people were telling me that, the Timberwolves defense is like the best defense they've seen in their whole lives. And yes, but there are mistakes. There are issues here with this defense, specifically, with their drop coverages on Luka and Kyrie. So, Kyrie Irving comes out to a really slow start. Can't really buy a bucket. Missed a lot of gimmies, frankly, like floaters, like shots that I couldn't imagine in a million years he would miss. He was missing them. And then he goes nuts in the fourth quarter. Daniel Gafford was crazy, including, that absolutely insane block, I believe, on Mike Conley, sprints down. Was it on Mike Conley? I believe he blocked Mike Conley. Then he sprints down the court, pushes somebody, lays the ball up while falling out of bounds. I mean, plays like that really break your back, right? But in terms of, at the half, like this was Minnesota's game. Minnesota had this game in the bag. And I wonder if they felt themselves a little bit too much because they got out to a blistering, lead here, 28-22. And then we were at 40-31. And we got to 55-37, which is what Luka referenced. They were down 18 in the second quarter. And at that point, you're like, okay, there was a part of me that was like really feeling like, okay, is Dallas just satisfied getting one? Are they satisfied just getting one? But because honestly, splitting on the road is a win. You cannot argue that. Getting both on the road is freaking, it's icing on top. But even splitting these first two games, you got home court advantage. Now, you pretty much got the series in your hand if you're Dallas, right? And something just flips around here. Karl Anthony Towns, he makes a three, and suddenly you start to feel that like pressure of Dallas has stayed just connected enough. They're not going away. And then we see Karl Anthony Towns going one on one against PJ Washington, isolating, playing with the ball a little bit, couple of turnarounds, 1 foot stuff. It's like, relax, bro. You're not Dirk. And, it showed. And Luka makes a 2-point shot. Anthony Edwards, 15-foot pull-up jump shot. Luka makes a 2-point shot. And it's like, boom, over and over and over. And you just start to feel the tide and the momentum of this game. And I tell you, right there, it just flipped. And right there in the third quarter, it was 83% likely that the Minnesota Timberwolves was going to win this game, according to the win probability. And it just went away. 84-86. And then it was 87 on that huge, I believe it was a Kyrie Irving 3-pointer that puts them over. And, it just never came back. Now, there's a lot of controversial calls that some people say, hey, this call could have changed, the momentum of the game. And there's turnovers we need to talk about. So the call in question was one of two turnovers by Anthony Edwards in the clutch. And it gets overturned, right? So Dallas calls for a challenge. Kyrie Irving is immediately like, hey, Jaden McDaniels touched it out of bounds. The only reason Jaden McDaniels is even in the position to catch that ball in such an awkward position is because, Anthony Edwards tosses him the ball. Kyrie Irving touches his hand. Jaden McDaniels tips it out of bounds. And that's all she wrote. The referees, despite people wanting a different outcome for that because maybe it's their team, that got jobbed by that. Those are the rules. When you go to a review, you can only go and check what is being reviewed. You can't rewind, right? So the foul technically happens prior to the out of bounds call. You can't go back and retroactively check. You didn't challenge the foul, right? Had they called a foul, then Dallas could have said, no, that wasn't a foul. And then that could have been, but that wasn't what was being challenged. The call was out of bounds. And so really, the referees sometimes split the difference when they see a ticky-tack foul like that, right? They might see somebody touch someone's hand and push it out of bounds. They'll just call it out of bounds on the team that pushed the guy's hand. But if you challenge that, you can win that challenge because technically it's still off that guy's hand, and that's exactly what happened. Now, to those people saying, hey, there should be an asterisk next to this game because the refs basically jobbed the Minnesota Timberwolves. Please give me a fucking break, okay? What Anthony Edwards got away with on Kyrie Irving, especially on that one possession where he just checked him one-on-one and everyone's like, oh my God, Anthony Edwards playing such great defense on Kyrie Irving. He's playing such great defense on Kyrie Irving. Bro, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He fouled him like 4 times on that play. He was hand checking him. He was holding him. And the refs just swallowed their whistle. And, credit to Kyrie. He's not losing his mind over it. I think this game came down to composure. It came down to mastery. You talking about masters of the game when it comes to Luka and Kyrie, right? These are, Stan Van Gundy made quite a stir calling them the best duo, and Draymond Green lost his mind. Dennis Green, possibly no relation here, saying Draymond Green should not be allowed to comment on Rudy. That is bullshit. Frankly, I agree. I think it's quite petty that, you put the guy in a headlock and now you're using your platform with TNT to call, to talk shit about him. That's just weird to me. Jordan Lalonde saying, I remember that exact play, literally 4 different fouls. Facts. And look, there were plenty of times like that. There's a foul almost every single play down the court on Luka. Jaden McDaniels is not guarding him clean. Okay, nobody's guarding Luka clean. But once again, Luka just check. There's like endless counters. And then, of course, we have to talk about the Anthony Edwards turnover, the big turnover where he passes to Naz Reid and Naz Reid is not there. Look, man, I'm going to say this. I'm not trying to gloat, but y'all remember my live reaction to the ringer pot, that ringer list of 25 under 25. And I saw Luka at 4 and I lost my fucking mind because Anthony Edwards was number 2. I can't remember who was number 3 now, but I'm pretty sure it was stupid. Who was number 3? Someone tell me who was number 3. I know Victor was number 1. They put Ant number 2. What was number 3? It's so egregious that I've completely wiped it out of my mind that they put 3 players over Luka in the 25 under 25. Anyways, y'all saw me lose my mind on that because it's too soon to be talking about this. You really don't understand basketball if you think that Anthony Edwards is a better player than Luka Doncic. There we go, Shea. Okay, Shea, I don't think he's better than Luka. I said it in the OKC Dallas series. I don't think he's better than Luka. I think Luka is the best player among all these guys that we're talking about. The only player better than Luka Doncic in the NBA is Nikola Jokic. That's it. It's those two guys at the top. Beyond that, we can talk about Joel Embiid. I don't like Joel Embiid, but I will admit to greatness when I see greatness. Joel Embiid is there. Giannis fading fast as a distant fourth. Don't talk to me about Jason Tatum. I love Jason Tatum. He's not in that conversation. Don't talk to me about Anthony Edwards. He's not in that conversation. These guys are simply not in that conversation. Shea is closely approaching that conversation, but there are levels to this. Okay, there are levels to this, and you're seeing it right now. And frankly, this is just me being pretty premature. You're going to see it in the finals when Dallas faces Boston as well. You will see it in the finals when Dallas faces Boston because there are levels to this. And I want to say, to those people trying to roast Anthony Edwards saying like, oh, he's a clown. No, he's not a clown. You're a clown. You are the clown. You motherfuckers walking out here saying he's Michael Jordan, he's this, he's that, he's the best thing since Kobe Bryant. Shut the fuck up. Now you're mad at the guy because he's not living up to your stupid ass expectations. First of all, he didn't ask you to put those fucking expectations on his head. You put them on him for yourself. Now you're mad at him because he made you look stupid. But truth be told, he's not making anyone look stupid. Anthony Edwards has had a fantastic playoffs. I am so sick and tired of this ESPN hot take culture where we, anoint a guy to be, he's Jordan. He's LeBron. He's the best player in the league. It's his league now. And then he comes up short in 2 games after, by the way, oh, this is all on Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is the reason they lost. Shut the fuck up. He's the only reason they even got this far. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? He's 22 years old, number one. Best 22-year-old in the world. No disrespect to Scotty Barnes. Like, Ant's on a different level right now. I love Scotty. I hope, I pray he's going to be better long term. But straight facts right now, I think Scotty himself would tell you that Ant is ahead of him, right? So no disrespect, no shade on that. Scotty's my guy. Love Scotty Barnes. But straight up, Anthony Edwards is a fucking beast, right? He has breathed confidence into this team. He has made people talk about this team like they are some dynasty before they even got to the fucking finals. He's dialed in offensively. He's attacked. He's played hurt. He's playing well above his head. He's playing through fatigue. He is so freaking confident. He's a mature leader for his age. But man, he's got some growing up to do as a basketball player. He's got a lot of growing up to do as a basketball player, man. Like some of the reads that he makes, he does not see the game at the level of a Luka Doncic. Few do, few ever will. Frankly, let's just be real about that. Saying somebody does not see the game like Luka Doncic is frankly like saying, you don't paint like Picasso. No shit, Sherlock, you don't paint like Picasso, okay? But I'm saying he don't even see the game like Kyle Anderson, okay? He don't even see the game like Boris Diaw right now. Give him time. He's 22 years old. He's shown a commitment to hard work. He made himself from a kind of loose defender to a really good defender. Is he the best defender in the league? I heard that the other day. Is he the best defender in the league? Oh my God. Are you dumb? You watch OG Anunoby? Have you watched Herb Jones? He's the best defender in the league now because it's suitable to your narrative, because it fits the whole, Michael Jordan stuff. No, man, go watch Michael Jordan play defense and tell me that looks similar. It does not. Okay? It does not. Look, again, this sounds like a lot of backhanded compliments towards Anthony Edwards. I'm more so taking a jab at people who build people up only to knock them down. If you're going to build someone up, ride or die, okay? Stand on your shit and stop this. Stop clickbaiting for ups and downs, right? Like the epic collapse of Anthony Edwards. Really? This is an epic collapse? For real? I saw a guy attack the rim relentlessly. I saw a defense wall up. I see one of the best defenses that I have seen in the last 10 years in the Dallas Mavericks that is geared towards putting the ball in the hands of Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns and frankly daring them to do anything. I don't see how this is his fault. By the way, last I checked, you want to check how much money Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert make combined? I think they make like $90+ million. And we're going to blame the 22-year-old who's still on his rookie contract? Really? Absurd. I thought Anthony Edwards adjusted his game massively tonight. You saw a concerted effort to attack the rim, to not settle for jumpers, to play through fatigue. I think he's guarding his tail off. There are just limitations to what he can do. He's just not that good. He's great. He's a great player. I think, he's firmly in that top 15, top 12 players in the league conversation. But don't tell me he's past Jason Tatum right now. Just don't. Like, it's close, and you can have that conversation. You can say they're in the same lump, but definitely do not tell me he is ahead of Luka Doncic. Like, we can have the conversation about Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards. We can have that conversation. And because he's so young, you can put him above those guys. You can say because he's so young and he's so assertive and he's so charismatic, but don't get too carried away with the personality shit. It only carries you so far, okay? The bravado, the personality, the swagger, the big shots, the athleticism, the dunks, the posters. This shit doesn't mean anything when you get down to the final seconds and you have to make a decision and you are seeing two plays behind the other guy, because that's really what's happening right now. Luka Doncic is on a completely different planet, and frankly, so is Kyrie Irving, than every other player on this court, okay? Luka is truly, truly, truly like, when Kyrie and Luka talk about each other, it's really like when you see Magnus Carlsen talking about like one of those other great chess players. Being great is so lonely because you don't meet other people who see the game like you. Luka Doncic could talk to a guy who's coached in the NBA for 15 years, and I guarantee you he's going to see stuff that guy does not see. Mere mortals do not see like the gods, okay? Troy Knight saying he's not better than Tatum at all. It's a conversation. I'm not saying he's better, but it's a conversation. Let's listen to Chris Finch. I have a feeling like Chris Finch ripped into his team after game one. Let's see what he had to say after game two. I'm clearly losing my voice a little bit, so it'll give me a chance to catch my voice as well. Give me 1 sec here. The real reason we go to post game so that I don't have to talk for 45 minutes straight. Give me 1 sec here.
Not calling a timeout there.
Yeah, I mean, I just said I should have called it. So, but we, thought the ball was in Ant's hands. The differential in the clock wasn't huge, but I initially wanted to call it, but I didn't. So,
how do you get Ant back to playing a little bit more of the quick decision basketball that he's been so good with over the last 2 months?
Yeah, he's got to get more in transition, got to get out. I thought he started the game with a great burst, was really going downhill well, and then, kind of just phased out as the game went along. Went in there a few times. I thought he could have done it more, and we need him to do it more. So, yeah, he just has to think some more early. Got to play off the catch a little bit more. I thought be a little more shot ready. I thought he turned down some open looks too.
You went with Nas the final stretch over Carl.
Yeah.
What went into your decision making there? Obviously, Nas was playing well.
Yeah,
Karl
Nas was
struggling.
playing well, real well, and gave us some switchable combinations out there and stuff like that. So,
did you tell Carl that at all, or did you just kind of sit him and just
No.
let it ride at that point?
No, I mean, didn't really have time to have that conversation, So,
Chris, both Carl and Anthony have struggled inside the arc. Ant got a lot more 2-point looks in this game than the last game. What's the key for them, effectively getting downhill or being effective inside the arc?
Yeah, I think, with Anthony, we just talked about, I think he's got to pick up his decision making. I think Kyrie's actually a good example. He's playing quick off the catch. He's trying to beat our defensive pressure with everything on the catch, going quickly. With Cat, I think he's just got to calm down. I think he coming out of the gate pressing a little bit, maybe getting off on the wrong foot and then chasing the game. So he got some good looks. didn't go down. I thought there was a stretch when they came back into the game, we had a lot of really good looks that didn't go down, whether even at the rim or some open threes. So.
Coach, Mike was a lot more assertive tonight, looking for his shot out of the pick and roll, got to his floater a bunch. How do you assess his game and the value of that going forward in the series?
Yeah, I thought Mike played great. Really did. I thought he made a lot of really good plays. We need him to be aggressive. Especially when our other scorers are struggling a little bit.
Gafford and Lively are combined, I think, 14 for 16.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. Obviously Luka lobs or something akin to that off those sets. What's the counter for that, or what is the way to present that from being less efficient?
Yeah, I think again, it starts with keeping the ball out of the paint a little bit better. Rudy's got to be a little more decisive on what he's trying to do down there. We got to put a body on that guy too, so be a little more physical.
Did you get a chance to look at the replay with 47 seconds left? Obviously, went off McDaniels.
Yeah, it looked like it was also
some
fouled,
contact,
right?
Yeah,
of course. Looked like it was fouled, but they can't or didn't account for that in the call.
Just to clarify, he was correct, and then he went with the incorrect thing. They can't. It's not that they didn't. It's not that they didn't want to. It's that they literally can't. Those are the rules of the fucking game.
Do you say anything to the team after a loss like this? Or
I mean, as I said, listen, I thought we're doing a lot of stuff that we talk about doing. Thought game plan execution was a little bit better tonight. We're building leads. Just, our offense is letting us down in key moments with turnovers and some missed shots and some. We kind of play ourselves out of rhythm, I think, a little bit at times. The two tough games. It's a long series, and keep our head up. We got to keep getting better, but there's a lot of basketball to be played.
I just want to be clear. I don't think I've ever seen a coach win a series after saying there's a lot of basketball left to be played. Maybe I'm wrong.
We're back for Playoff Central Live. Let's listen in to head coach Jason Kidd.
Jason, take us through what you saw on Luka's game winner.
Well, first I thought, getting the ball in and setting the screen and being to execute, we felt like they were going to red with Rudy, and they've been doing that pretty much, there in the fourth quarter. So once we got Luka the ball, we wanted to give him space and let him do what he does. And I thought he set him up for the step back because of him attacking the paint over and over. Rudy has to honor that. And so with Luka's ability to create space in that, moment, as you've seen with Luka, he loves that stage. And he doesn't run from it, and he made a big shot. I thought he was great the whole game, keeping the guys together. His energy, knowing that we didn't play well there in that first half, but we came out, we had a good talk at halftime, and the guys worked the game, and we found ourselves in a game. Made it a little harder with missed free throws, but again, Luka is special, and he loves those type of moments.
And obviously you mentioned you didn't play well early, down 18. What did you think were the biggest keys to dig out of that?
Well, we've never been in that situation before, so I think we were just kind of, we were competing, but you got to give Minnesota's a really good team, well coached, and they came out and they were aggressors. They took advantage of us kind of, being competitive, but not where we have been here during this playoff run. And I thought we talked about it at halftime. We worked the game, we trusted one another, and we found a way to win on the road.
You guys were down 5, I think, with a minute.
Bro, everyone could see that step out was coming. Like, I was just like, I literally started calling out to my girlfriend who was in the other room saying, come over, watch this. That's hilarious.
29 left. The poise, the focus, like there was no panic. It didn't seem like in those last moments. That challenge was big, pretty big, to just speak to how you guys are ready to handle these moments on the road in this environment.
Yeah, great question and great observation. I think just the trust and calmness of the group. We could have easily just got on the bus and went home after Kai missed the 2 free throws. But again, our defense, we believe in our defense. We got stops. Give a lot of credit to our bench of keeping the energy in a positive way, keeping those guys up. And then Keith made a great call of the challenge. He said, let's challenge it. He was on the baseline standing, so he had good eyes on it. And that's the trust. I trusted that Smooth was telling me the truth. We challenged it, and we found, we won that challenge. And so it's a team effort, great team win. Everybody played their part at a high level tonight, even the guys who didn't play.
You mentioned the good talk at halftime. Can you impart a little bit about maybe what that was, and also what were the biggest changes into the second half, which you guys took care of?
Yeah, I thought, we weren't playing, Mavs basketball. I thought, again, just understanding what we had to do. We weren't rebounding the ball. We were getting the misses, and then we weren't covering the three as well as we've talked about. And then, Reed was 7 for 8. It seemed like every shot he took, he made. But I thought the group responded to the conversation that we had at halftime. And it's hard to win on the road, but it's even harder to win in the playoffs. And that group responded. Just understand they worked the game. We knew we couldn't get it all back in one shot. So it was a great job of just executing the game and finding a way to win on the road.
And also the play of Gafford and Lively. I mean, they shooting almost 90% and then get you 30 and 14.
It's a good tandem. I thought Gaff was a lot better tonight. D-Live has been D-Live. He's playing well. Again, for a young man who's a rookie playing late in the playoffs, the trust that his teammates have with him on the floor, on the offensive end and the defensive end, has shown. And he's going to be a special one as his journey continues. But our bigs were really good tonight.
You said it felt like Naz Reid made every shot. Did you hold your breath as the last shot went through the air?
Well, I said they found a hot guy. I was like, damn. A hell of a play, great look. The ball just bounced our way, so we got lucky.
With Luka, you talk a lot about not taking him for granted. When you see this, probably as much as anybody, you see practice, you see all his games, you see all of this. Is it hard for you sometimes? Do you have to remind yourself, just personally, not to take him for granted?
Oh, I'm not taking him from granted. Just understanding who he is and what he's about, he's special, and I said that since I've been here. He loves the moment. He's not afraid of the moment. One of the plays that I thought was big was a reversal of him coming up with an offensive tip to Kai, where Kai has done that with the offensive tip in Oklahoma series, with the tip to Luka for a 3. It was like role reversal. I think Kai just missed it. But it was just, he's trying to do everything, all the little plays on the defensive end and the offensive end, and he can carry that load, and he's doing that for us right now.
Even with the rare occurrence from Kai missing those free throws, the backcourt still facilitated and made sure that everyone stayed grounded. What was the emphasis of your call, gameplay, and everything like that?
Yeah, we were, it was kind of role reversal. Luka was going early, Kai, so we wanted to get him out early. Kai had great looks that just didn't go down, but the beauty of this team is just the positivity, the energy. If someone isn't struggling, everyone's picking up each other and everyone's connected, and so everyone just kept telling Kai to keep doing what he was going to do. And I thought in the fourth he showed up like Luka did, and he played at a high level for us on the offensive end. After missing those free throws, he makes a big 3 in the corner, and so that just shows that no one quit. Everybody played to the end, and that's what makes this group special.
Jason, you had pointed out last couple of days several times that you guys didn't win game 1 in the first 2 rounds. So when you get the first game, human nature a lot of times is teams to basically get ready to go home, and you have the split. How did you handle the messaging in terms of, no, let's get greedy and get 2 here? Yeah, I think there's only one guy who's won a championship, so we have to be hungry. And when you talk about Kai, it's easy for Kai to, send that message. But I think for the group, there's a trust between the coaches and players to players.
In fairness, there are 2 guys who won a championship. Jason Kidd also won a championship.
And the last 2 days, we've talked about that we're down. Like, we haven't done anything. And this group is one that's not going to quit. They continue to play to the end. Even if we ended up losing this game, it's about, playing the game the right way for 48 minutes. And that's what we've done, here of late. And that's what we truly believe in. And so it's been fun to be around these guys. These guys have a lot of fun, but when it comes to work, they're trying to do their job at a high level. And everyone concentrates on Luka and Kai, but the role players do their part and are embraced by the stars. And that's what, again, makes this team special. Yeah.
All right. Look, man, I don't think this series is over. It would be very hard, though. I said it yesterday about the Pacers. I'll say it, maybe not the same level of difficulty because the Minnesota Timberwolves clearly capable of winning on the road. They went into Denver and won a game 7. You should never count this team out. But that being said, there are certain differences between the Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks, specifically how they defend and how they initiate their offense, right? Now, Denver at times last year was a pretty good defense. I think this year, not so great. They were a team that sort of sleepwalked. They were also a team that got some very underwhelming performances from some of their complementary pieces. You could argue Michael Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon, either one of those guys have an average game in game 7. We're seeing Dallas Denver right now. So never underestimate the amount of luck that it takes to get to this point and how much a part luck, shooting variance, illness, injury, etc. can play in terms of a team. But when you look at a team up and down, you really ask, what does this team like to do and how does another team stop this, right? So Luka and ISO one-on-one can't really stop that, right? You don't have a matchup for it. Frankly, nobody does. Nobody has a matchup for Luka one-on-one. Nobody. I don't give a shit about what people say about Lou Dort or OG Anunoby or anybody. No one's stopping Luka Doncic one-on-one. He is a 18 seconds of 7-8 counters, and eventually he's going to get a clean shot. He gets to his spot. 1, because he has 85 spots on the court. 2, because he builds up rhythm as he continues with his dribble. And 3, because he is very much always a threat to kill you in 3 different ways. He can pass, dribble, shoot, right? And he can drive and he can score on all 3 levels. And he has like this entire plane to dance on, which is like, he's not afraid to pull it from 28 if you sag off. He's not afraid to dive into a double team and draw a foul. He has like a relentless ability to punish your mistakes. And the same thing they say about Jokic, except the difference is with Jokic, it's a little bit slower. Jokic wasn't really shooting threes, so it made him a lot more predictable. If you can understand, like Jokic initiating from the top would be just as dangerous as Luka generating offense from the top, except Jokic was not shooting, so teams were able to drop back on him, which really played into Rudy Gobert's hands. You saw Jokic have, I think, 2 games where he just started launching from 3, right? And people criticized it because he wasn't hitting them. But the truth is, I think Jokic understood that for them to win that series, they had to pull Gobert out of the paint. Well, one way to pull Gobert out of the paint and basically render Gobert kind of useless is to put him in relentless switches and to put him in pick and roll where the guy who's rolling is just faster than him and is able to get behind him. And you're seeing Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively just get around the bigs. So in terms of where you're initiating all your offense from, this is a very perimeter-oriented offense where they can play a traditional kind of 5 out or 4 out, and Luka initiating from the top, and they'll sometimes stagger. One of Luka or Kyrie is almost always on the court. They do a lot of similar things. They can generate offense in similar ways. They can both initiate from all 3 levels. They can be in the post and kind of hold their composure and dissect you as passers. They can draw a double team, but if you put one on them, they're pretty much going to cook their matchup every single time and force middle or get to the line. I just don't think like you just have the same recipe for success against this team. And on the other hand, what you want to do offensively, if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, like Anthony Edwards got to the rim relentlessly against Denver. But there's no defender as bad as Jamal Murray on this team. None. And I don't even think there might not be a defender as bad as Michael Porter Jr. on this team. the Dallas Mavericks are playing up to a very, very, very good defensive level. Like we are seeing defensive plays made by Luka Doncic. He's even bought in. So I think that, and also like that matchup that they have, like I think Derrick Jones Jr., like for everything I think about, KCP and how great he is, I think Derrick Jones Jr. might be a better matchup for Anthony Edwards. He's just bothering him a little bit more. He's got a little bit more length, but it's not one man who's stopping Anthony Edwards. And I think that that's the credit you have to give to Anthony Edwards, that he's evolved himself to the type of player where the Dallas Mavericks defense is geared up for him so relentlessly, and they know that he has this elite first step, but they also know that the law of averages says that if you can force him to be a jump shooter, you are going to actually win that game more times than not, because he's not going to be able to get into the middle, and that's a recipe for a disaster. So again, I think Jason Kidd is coaching this brilliant series because, again, what you want them to do is to go to their fourth or fifth option. Because if Minnesota can design an offense that's just like, however they want to play, they want to play with Anthony Edwards getting downhill. They want to play with Karl-Anthony Towns getting in the post. They don't want to play with Anthony Edwards shooting jump shots and Karl-Anthony Towns isolating from 20 feet off the dribble. They don't want to have Rudy Gobert, with post touches 12 feet away from the basket, trying to make plays in the post. So if you're the Dallas Mavericks, you're going to deliberately force them into situations where they're going to have to play from their weaknesses. And there are so many weaknesses to dissect. I think it helped maybe the Dallas Mavericks that they closed out OKC a game early. They didn't go to game 7. They closed them out despite OKC had home court. So they beat OKC at home, and then they took care of business in Dallas, and they win game 6. They had just a little bit more time to dissect and prepare for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I kept saying throughout that Denver and Minnesota series, this Timberwolves team is not as good as people are making them out to be. Offensively, they struggle. And I think we're seeing it again. They do crack 100 points. They get to 108 against a really good defense. So I still think they're batting up, right? Tonight, you get a pretty good shooting night from Minnesota. Fun fact, both teams shot identical from 3. So they matched even from 3. This game was lost in 2 places. So, yeah. So both teams, both teams shot 12 for 31 from 3. That's a pretty wild stat. So both teams shot above league average from 3. And 3-point shooting percentage is down in the playoffs. So this is like pretty above league average. And Minnesota got to the line 10 more times. And they won the offensive rebounding battle 11-12, right? And they won the assist battle 26-24. And they won the turnover battle 10-9. Where did they lose? Points in the paint? Yes. Those efficient shots that Kyrie and Luka generate for Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively are where Minnesota is losing this. Despite all the advantages that I just referenced, they were advantaged at the line. They had a field goal. They took more shots. They took 85 shots. The Dallas Mavericks took 84 shots. And you got to the line more. Do you realize how badly Minnesota won the possession battle here? Largely, they won the turnover battle. They won the points off the turnover battle. They won everything. But they still lost this game. They had the largest lead. Basically, they led the entire way and lost this game. They have lost game 1 and 2 by a combined 4 points. 4 points. 4. Count them. 4 points. That's crazy. They are losing on the details. So don't count Minnesota out. Don't say they're washed, they're done. This is not the Pacers where I counted out the Pacers eulogy yesterday. If you caught it, I'm standing firm on that. The Pacers are done. The Minnesota Timberwolves, I don't think they're done. I think they're going to punch hard. This is a team, honestly, the Minnesota Timberwolves are one of the weirdest teams in the league. They have, if I'm not mistaken, they have won every single game where they were not favored to win last series, and they've lost every single game so far that they were favored to win in this series. Maybe this is just a team that needs to be the underdog to win. But I got to tell you something. If you had bet the underdog in every single game that Minnesota has played in the last 9 games, you'd be very, very rich right now. So it's something weird happening. They just do not respond well to being on top. We got a surprise caller. We got Coach Mo. Let's talk to Coach Mo. Coach Mo, what's up?
It's a great game.
Great game,
And
man.
after game one of this series, I thought to myself, Dallas is going to win the championship. That's who I'd bet money on. And you said the series wasn't over. Do you think Minnesota can win 4 out of the next 5?
No.
Especially if most of them are going to be close games. I just don't see it happening.
See, again, I said it before about the Boston and Indiana series. I'll say the same thing. When you're going up against a better team, the longer the series goes, the more it favors the better team. Now, this did not work out last series because I do believe Denver was the better team and they lost anyways. But in this case, yeah, I really...
I think the difference in this series is, even though Jokic is the best player of the two teams that Minnesota's facing, the difference to me is the gap between Luka and Jokic, I don't think is that big, but Jokic is better, even though Luka's kind of hobbled right now. I think the main difference is Kyrie Irving is a lot more reliable and better on both ends of the floor than Jamal Murray was. Jamal Murray struggled mightily, and especially in moments where Jokic really needed help.
Mm.
You know, it's like Kyrie can legitimately put his cape on almost at will. Jamal Murray couldn't.
Yeah, I think Jamal, there was a lot of hobble injury stuff there too. I wonder, how much it wears on you physically to play a team that's being so physical with you, is being allowed to be so physical with you, and you're already not 100%. I don't think like I'm willing to just write off everything that I know about Jamal Murray based on last series and just hand the crown over to Kyrie. I do think Kyrie's a better player. I do think he's bought in way more defensively. I do think historically he's been a better player. But Jamal Murray's no slouch. I don't think that the last series, like, here's the thing. If I go out and I play with a sore ankle and you're guarding me one-on-one, you're going to look like an elite defender because I'm not going to be able to get past you because I'm not going to have any burst. You might pick the ball off me because I'm uncomfortable because and some people might say you're a great defender, but if I'm full 100, I'm going right past you. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like, it's like that, like,
it's unfortunate.
Injuries can make people look really bad and make the people who are guarding them really good.
I guarantee you take the current form of Kyrie and put him and replace him with Jamal Murray in the last series, Denver wins.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, they win.
That's exactly it. But if Kyrie was hobbled, maybe we're talking about him just the same way we're talking about Jamal Murray. Do you think this series goes? Are we coming back to? Are we coming back to Minnesota?
Out of respect to the Wolves, I'll say yes. Just the reason why I have so much more confidence in Dallas is everything flows through their top 2 players, and their top 2 players are perimeter players, so it's much more easier to get them the ball. Minnesota, you said it perfectly. There are times where possessions end where Cat's just on the perimeter and the shot clock's waning down. Gobert's trying to make a move in the post. Alexander Walker's doing something. He's freestyling, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Mike Conley has to pull a rabbit out of his hat. I just feel like Dallas knows who they are. They know who their guys are. Everyone, they orbit around the moon and the sun, and that is it. And we go from there. Whereas Minnesota, Ant's the top guy, but even he has limitations as a playmaker. So even when he has the ball in his hands, it sounds crazy because they've lost by like a combined, like it feels like 5 points in both games. But that's the margin.
Play a hypothetical. If I could take Anthony Edwards' athleticism and defense and put it into Luka Doncic, is that the greatest player of all time?
Probably.
It's freaking insane, man. Luka has so many limitations as well, right? As much as we don't talk about them because he's just the expert. His brain, his vision, his relentless, dog, whatever we want to call it. Oak Tree saying that's MJ. Pretty much. That is Michael Jordan. It's a you know what I just described? I described a cross between Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, basically, right? Anthony Edwards is gonna get killed for this series because of how much people have built him up. I don't think it's fair though. I think the fact that he's carried, like I'm not saying they already won their championship by knocking out the Denver Nuggets, but that's a big, big, big hurdle in terms of their eventual goal that they're getting to. And I know that he and Carl Towns, because they're both kind of immature, they laughed it off. They said, "How much more we got to lose? How much we got to lose?" Well, this is how much more you got to lose. You got to take this pain. You got to, it doesn't always work out this way, but most of the time you're going to have to lose on a bigger stage. In the Western Conference Finals, getting embarrassed by the Dallas Mavericks when you had home court, when you were favored to win the series, when you were favored to win the championship, Vegas still favors Boston though. Vegas favors Boston over both these teams. I don't.
Neither do I.
I am not a Boston hater. I like
Neither
the
am
Boston Celtics. I love the Boston Celtics.
I don't, but
I like their players. I don't love the team. I don't love their history. I don't love their fans, but I like the team. I like Jason Tatum. I like Kristaps Porzingis. I like Drew Holiday. I like Derek White. I like Jaylen Brown. I like all their team. Like, I'm even coming around on Joe Mazzulla. We got O'Shea Brissett on the team. He's a Canadian guy. Look, I have nothing to say about Boston's roster. I love Boston's roster. I still think Luka is better.
Yep.
I think Luka and Kyrie. Now, can we just get to how crazy the finals are going to be with Mavericks versus Celtics if it is that matchup? Dude, Kyrie Irving against Boston.
The boos are going to be crazy.
And Kristaps Porzingis against Dallas.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
What? Why is ESPN not talking about this right now? This is crazy. I think they're not talking about this because they still expected Minnesota to win this series. But seriously, this is insanity. Like, this is everything you want. This is two people going up against their old teams. Both fan base have very, very polarizing opinions about both players. This would be like Vince Carter facing off against the Raptors in the finals. You know what I mean? Like, it's not quite that level. But I mean, Kyrie swore he was coming back and then he left, and everyone has hated him in Boston since. Like, Boston Celtics fans can't stand Kyrie Irving. To see Kyrie Irving win a championship for Dallas in Boston, dude, my tears might turn green. What?
I mean, if you're Dallas, you're just like, thank God we got the mature, fully actualized version of Kyrie Irving. Thank the stars that, whew, we got him in his final form. You know, like when Frieza hit the final form. Yeah, that's Kyrie.
I never really watched Dragon Ball Z, but I imagine it was epic. Okay, I think that, is there another player in the league that you think has like kind of a damaged reputation? Because look, man, like Kyrie Irving and James Harden had like pretty bad reputations coming out of Brooklyn, and the Clippers gambled on James Harden coming out of Philly, right? And he paid off. It didn't pay off right away, but it paid off, right? James Harden was elite for the Clippers. Kyrie Irving's been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what they gave up for Kyrie Irving?
It was one unprotected first-round pick in 2029 because they didn't have much first-round picks. It was one unprotected first-rounder in 2029. It was Spencer Dinwiddie.
Mm-hmm.
Finney Smith. Finney Smith, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think like a second. Like, it wasn't much because Kyrie was going to be a free agent.
People hated that trade.
Because he was going to be a free agent. It was technically a rental contract wise, a 1-year rental.
Yeah, but I mean, any team that was going to trade for him kind of knew what the deal was, right? And I mean, they just I don't know. I guess they thrust into it, and then it's just so many people have egg on their face because honestly, like Luka himself did not want the team to tank last year, and look what they tanked for. They tanked for So here's a question that I would love to ask Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster. They tanked with Luka and Kyrie on their team to get Derek Lively. You couldn't tank because you had Pascal and Fred.
I know. Oh my! I messaged you today when I told you from the bottom of my heart. Every day, like, there's at least one moment every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful. Nurse, Pascal, and Fred are gone. I
Yeah.
am so happy we don't have to have these guys literally have us hostage because they were a part of a championship team. And they never mention it, but the way they behave, the way they talk and walk, it is like, you're lucky we even are here.
There was an air of that, but there's always been an air of that with Toronto, unfortunately. There just has been. You know what I mean? Like it's been there for a really long time. Like even like, okay, so this entire Drake diss track, love it, by the way. Not gonna lie.
Not like
Love
us.
it. Yeah. Shit. Bro, I don't want to get too controversial here. I don't know about you. I'm not a Drake fan.
Yeah.
So
I think men of a certain age aren't a Drake fan.
okay, yeah. So like, I mean, I'm a huge Kendrick Lamar fan and I'm a huge Weeknd fan. So the fact that he beefed with those two guys, I'm like, yeah, my side in this war is clear. But there's that part about, where he says, DeRozan, y'all didn't deserve him, right?
Yeah.
That is American sentiment because DeRozan from Compton, Kendrick Lamar from Compton, blah, blah, blah. Drake, bigged up DeRozan and whatever. And maybe it rubbed Kendrick some way. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm happy they're gone, but so here's a worthwhile question. Dallas Mavericks call you tomorrow. They say, we love Derek Lively, but we want Jakob Poeltl. Y'all want Derek Lively. How many first round picks are you willing to give us for this swap? Just to give you an idea of how much the value has sunk on that pick. So, I mean, I think it's worth asking, would you trade Jakob Poeltl and Grady Dick for Derek Lively?
I would.
Okay, would you trade Jakob Poeltl, Grady Dick, and a first round pick for Derek Lively?
Which pick?
2026 lottery protected.
Nah, man.
Lottery protected.
Yeah, I would. His fit with Scotty and the fact that he's only 20 and we get him after this playoff run. Yeah, I take him.
Okay, I think Grady's going to be really good, but I just wanted to throw that out there that I think a lot of
I wouldn't if we didn't have Scotty. If it was Pascal leading us, because then it doesn't matter. Because guys like him, they work so well with people who can get them the ball in places they need. Because it's not like Lively is a dump it down center, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like Masai said, the hardest part we have the hardest piece, and he can get him lobs.
He can. Maybe not like Luka, but he definitely can. And I do want to say, like, I think he's going to be like, people keep trying to compare him to some player. And there were a lot of comparisons around the draft to maybe a guy like DeAndre Jordan. I see, who I see in him? I'm curious, do you have a comp for him? Like, do you have a player that when you watch Derek Lively, you're like, this guy really reminds me of this guy?
Well, right now, he plays a lot like Houston Clint Capella. Remember when he was a little bit more bouncier?
Mm-hmm.
And he used to eat off of Harden and Chris Paul. That's kind of what he's doing right now. He's obviously a lot younger than I think Capella was then, but I think he has more room to grow, like to expand his game. Because Capella never really shot, and he never really developed any sort of jump shot.
He reminds me of Joakim Noah. Like a bouncier, like lob threat version of Joakim Noah. Like a Tyson Chandler meets Joakim Noah. Like that's the best version. And what I'm thinking about is like, could he be perennially like a second team to first team all defense guy for like 8 years? And also low key be like a 2 to 3 time all-star. Like he projects to be a better player than Jared Allen. And Jared Allen has made an all-star team, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I mean, numbers-wise, like he's putting up pretty good numbers. And
Dude, what I'm fascinated by is his decision making. I can't stop raving about Derek Lively. Pretty much any person that I talk to for 10 minutes, whether they are my neighbor whether it's some person I see on the street, whether it's a
Derek
person I see
Lively
on the
comes
street.
up in the conversation.
Derek Lively just randomly comes up, be like, y'all watching the playoffs? Be like, yeah. What do you think of that guy, Derek Lively? He's pretty good, right? They're like, who? Luka? No. Kyrie? No. Ant Edwards? No. Don't know. Don't care. Wemby? No, man. Derek Lively. He's fucking awesome. Watching Derek Lively and Kason Wallace just,
breaks your heart.
It
Really breaks your heart.
I like Grady. I like Grady a lot. Like I really do, and I don't want any of this to be considered as misconstrued as shade. But really, he's not on their level yet. He may get there one day, and one day from now, we might look back and say Grady's a top 5 player in this draft class, and maybe those guys don't hit that mark. Progression happens at weird times, But man, like what this guy's doing in the playoffs now. But what they both did in the playoffs, like they're both rotation players. Like Kason Wallace was decidedly better than Josh Giddey in the playoffs.
Oh,
and he's a rookie. He's a rookie.
That's not a high bar at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Giddey's a pretty good player, bro. He's a pretty good player. Like I know people are trashing him right now, but he's a starter level player in the NBA.
He's very fit dependent, though. He's very fit dependent.
But in fairness, he started for the number 1 team in the Western Conference.
And without him, they would have been the number 1 team in the West.
They were the number 1 team in the West.
Yeah, but how much did he contribute to that? Sure, but I mean, if he went down with injury, I'm not wishing injury on anybody, but if he did, are they really suffering?
What do you mean?
Like if J-Dub gets down, that's a big loss. If Chet goes down, that's a big loss. Obviously, Shea goes down, that's a big loss. In terms of the starters,
no, I understand that. I get that.
He's the 5th guy.
Okay,
and he's really redundant in the starting lineup.
Okay, but we're not
running the bench.
But we're not acting like Kason Wallace and Derek Lively are the second options on their teams, right? So what I'm saying is like he participated and analytically he was fine. His shooting is still a problem, but his playmaking cannot be understated. My point is he was better than him. Isaiah Joe was better than him in the playoffs. In fact, Wiggins might have been better than him in the playoffs. But Derek Lively is leading the Dallas Mavericks in plus minus throughout the entire playoffs. He's actually 3rd in the league in plus minus. I believe the only players ahead of him in terms of plus minus, not box plus minus, just plus minus. God, who is it? Who is it? Nikola Jokic, maybe? Jason Tatum? No, the entire Celtics starting lineup, like because of how much they've killed other teams, there aren't many players.
By the way, the Jason Kidd, it finally worked out playing Gafford more. Because before it was like just run the kid, just let him free. But today it worked
I think
out.
part of the genius of playing those two guys is the fact that neither one of them has to shoulder the full load of being a starter. You can play them for 6-minute stints. They can be super bouncy, super active, and they just get a rest. And I think that is the secret genius of like actually having a real backup, at a role player spot, right? Like, so when you're working out your depth chart, you want this prototype of player to be insanely like in and out, right? So to put it into context, it would be like having, I don't know, like it would be like having Clint Capella as a backup for Miles Turner. You know what I mean? Like it's totally different type of player, fine, but they're both starter level centers, right? And you could just run them into the ground for 6 minutes and then stint, and then the other guy comes in and it's 6 minutes, and it's a change of pace, but they still do a lot of the same stuff, as in like they can still rim protect, and so your offense just flips a little bit. But like having that insane depth piece as your 6th man, it's really helpful. It's kind of like what what they have with Naz Reid and Karl-Anthony Towns, right? It's like that Naz Reid factor where Cat can have a stinker like tonight where he goes 4 for 16 and he's just on another planet right now. And honestly, the biggest reason that I am so like bearish on the Minnesota Timberwolves is Karl-Anthony Towns right now.
They're going to have to do something though, because paying the center position that much money, like, do you really see Minnesota winning a championship with Rudy? Like, if they do, which I don't think they will this year, with Rudy, Cat,
Edwards,
you see it?
I could. Yeah.
I mean, the amount of money that's being pumped into that. Because, like, when you watch today's game, you're like, Cat's on the bench. Naz Reid makes like a third of what Cat makes. He's ending the
Undrafted,
game.
man.
He's
Undrafted.
ending the game, and it's like, and this is where you talk about winning on the margins. It's like, yep, you got McDaniels on a nice deal. You got Naz Reid on a nice deal. So Gobert and Towns can be overpaid because you're winning over there, right?
Mm-hmm. You believe the Karl Anthony Towns makes nearly $50 million?
You know,
that's next year. That's coming up for them. They're going to pay these three players 49, 43, and 42 next year.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's insane. It's insane. Take a look at Boston's books. Oh, it's gonna get real ugly in Boston because open up Boston's, Rob. Open up Boston's. It's like, how are they gonna afford? Because they got serious talent, right? And
So
they
they're second apron team right now too. Damn.
Look at Derek White. Look at Derek White and what Jason Tatum's gonna make, right? Because he's gonna get a super max.
Yeah, that Jaylen Brown contract is gonna look worse and worse.
It's gonna get bad.
Derek White is a friggin' bargain, bro.
Oh yeah, no. His contract ends next year. They need to sign an extension. They're gonna maybe he's extension eligible this summer. It's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get crazy.
I'm gonna look at Hoops Hype because they do. Okay, so come on.
And this is when you start poaching, like, or because I just don't see how Boston can afford that starting five. I mean, they could, but they literally have nothing else. That's why their bench is already kind of suspect, right? Because their bench was literally just Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, and Hauser. But
right. Well, I mean, they're not trusting their bench, but I liked what they got from O'Shea Brissett.
Yeah, I like him too. And this always comes back in the conversation we had last year with Nick Nurse. It's like the bench sucks. Blame the bench. It's like you never gave the bench a real shot. Like you never gave these guys a chance. It was like in the Nuggets series. It's like, I mean, you could have gave these guys a shot. Like we'll never know. We'll never know if we had a bench or not. Like we really don't.
Right. Okay. Transition over to a little bit of Raptors talk here. OG Anunoby. Okay. Now, something that people don't know, and I was going to do a live about this tomorrow, but I'm like, man, 2 OG Anunoby videos might be a little bit much. Do you know that his agent is not actually Leon Rose's son? Did you know this?
Okay, so are you saying officially or behind the scenes?
Officially.
He switched, or it was a lie?
He's one of the guys who represents him, but he's not his main guy.
Okay, so he's one of. Okay, so OG has multiple agents. Okay, some players have that. Okay.
Yeah, but his main guy is not. He's still a CAA guy, but his main guy, his main agent, is not Leon Rose's son. So I do think that's relevant. Second, a lot of this stuff coming out about OG's going to get paid, right? So he's got multiple offers, and yeah, there's a theory and a world in which he's just going to use Philadelphia and whatever else that he gets from anywhere else to leverage a maximum level offer from the New York Knicks. Two-parter. Number one, do you believe that his heart is set on New York, that this is like exactly where he wants to be, or you think Philly or Toronto are in it? And number two, if the Knicks pay $45+ million or 42 whatever million dollars for OG Anunoby, are they going to regret it?
I think they will.
Okay.
But they can afford it for now because Brunson's on a bargain, but that bargain's going to end very soon.
It's not ending that soon.
Really?
I mean, he's on a hold on, just look at it. He's got 2 more years on it. I mean, he's got a player option. Okay. So, okay.
Yep, one more year on a bargain.
Okay.
And that thing is skyrocketing.
Okay, and Mitchell Robinson has a descending contract. Josh Hart is on a very, very, very reasonable extension starting next year, like crazy
DiVincenzo
cheap.
too. And
DiVincenzo is like the best contract in the NBA, or one of them. Precious Achua is not getting the money he wants. I'll guarantee it right now.
You think we should get back Precious?
No.
Why not?
No. Not a fan.
Been there, done that.
It's like I've had enough of the Precious Achua experience, frankly.
I agree. It's just
OG's on a
different player of his prototype when
thank God for that. Okay.
I mean, physically speaking.
Bro, like physically speaking, yes. But mentally, like some of the mistakes I saw him make even in the playoffs, watching him with the Knicks, nah.
Okay, but Rob, let me play devil's advocate. Yes, he's not the smartest player, but wasn't the frustration with him because he was playing with Boucher and Malachi Flynn and Grady was struggling?
No.
Wasn't it a compounding effect?
No, I don't think so. I think the problem here is that the system you're building requires really smart basketball players, and you're going to see non-smart basketball players really struggle with that. You saw Pascal struggle with it, although he got better as it went on. You saw Boucher like completely fall out of the rotation and just was unplayable because he doesn't read the game well enough. You saw Gary Trent struggle. You saw Jalen McDaniels struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, your super cerebral players are the ones who are actually maximized in this system. He's a kind of a non-shooter, which I think is hard to pair. I agree you need defense. He's not a great defender. I'll put it on writing. He's not a great defender. He's a good defender who has capable moments. He's a very active defender. He's a very what's that term? He makes a lot of defensive plays, but that doesn't necessarily make you a great defender. Making a lot of defensive plays doesn't necessarily make you a great defender. So I prefer a guy who's more sound defensively, who makes less errors. Like a Mike Conley, is not physically, he's not OG Anunoby or Precious Achua, but he is a participant as a defender. So yeah.
Yep.
Zigstop Puzzle saying he's a Hassan Whiteside. Yeah, but like way, way worse. Yeah.
I was thinking about the Eastern Conference and watching Indiana make the conference finals, and they're one of the weakest conference finalists in a while.
Atlanta Hawks and them. That's it.
Multiple iterations of the Hawks. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 4 All-Star Hawks. We knew they were frauds, but I'm looking at these teams and I'm thinking to myself, how many teams in the East, just from a team standpoint, are not in turmoil going into the summer in terms of roster, in terms of like how many teams don't know what their roster is going to be? Like they have major decisions to make, because Toronto, for the first time in a long time, is one of the teams going in with absolute clarity of who they are and where they're going. And who their core pieces are. Because
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Okay, so like here's the entire Toronto roster right now, right? Do you have a clear, definitive conclusion on whether Jakob Poeltl is going to be a Raptor next season? I don't.
He's not. It's not major. Like Cleveland has major decisions to make.
Bro, he's making 20% of your available committed salary right now. It's pretty major, and for 4 years, and you traded away. This entire season has been a nightmare because of this guy.
I think he's staying. I think he's really hard to move, and I don't think Toronto wants to move off assets anymore. I think they're done trading picks unless it's for something substantial.
Okay,
so he's staying because he's just a negative asset.
I don't know if he's a negative asset necessarily, but he's definitely neutral. Gary Trent Jr., is he coming back?
I wouldn't bring him back.
I wouldn't either.
Been there, done that.
Okay.
Been there, done that.
Is Chris Boucher on this roster next year to start? He's an expiring. $10.8 million. Combine that with Jalen McDaniels, $4.7 million. And by the way, Chris Boucher and Gary Trent Jr. are the only players who started on your roster last year. Like, they were the only people on the opening night roster from last year, or the closing night roster from the previous year. Sorry. So Garrett Temple was like a new addition, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty Barnes is the last guy standing. All these other guys are new, right? Jakob Pertl is the guy standing. But like, basically, sorry. So Scotty's second year, Scotty, who started the last year.
Yeah.
So training camp 2022, 2023, that roster has been gutted. It's basically Boucher, Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr. That's it. That's it.
I love it. I love to see it. Let's move on. Let's move on.
I agree. But like, here's my, counter on this. So the Raptors have a ton of ways they can go. They have more flexibility than probably I can't think of a team that has more flexibility than them.
Yes. In terms of
other than
potential,
other than maybe OKC because of their draft picks.
Yeah.
But like, in terms of what they have available to do stuff with, they really could go multiple ways. One way they could go is to rent out their cap space, right? Where they can technically take on somebody else's problematic contract, give out a Boucher, Brown, Jalen McDaniels package, take on a multi-year problem, and take a couple of draft picks for their trouble, or maybe a young prospect that they really like. That is probably the way it will turn out if nothing goes their way. The other way they can do, I believe, is to utilize their cap space properly and actually sign somebody for the first time. And that person could be a Paul George, probably not going to happen, or an OG Anunoby, could happen. At which point, I think I'd give OG Anunoby $40+ million to be on this team. Largely because of what he does, and largely because of what his signing would signal for Bruce Brown and Gary Trent Jr. I think those two guys have to go. You have to renounce those guys in order to open up the space to get OG. It also kind of like resolves somewhat like this circle in my head of like you losing things for nothing. Like, we've had so many losses of like, oh, you lost Pascal for 3 draft picks.
I know.
Well, now it's kind of like if you get OG back, it's almost like you traded Pascal and Precious and Malachi for RJ, IQ,
3 first-round picks,
and 3 first-round picks, which is a great deal.
Oh my, that is a haul.
It is a haul, and also, like, never excuse an opportunity to fuck over the Knicks. So I just think that would be, it would be great for the Raptors to be the boogeyman. If nothing else, you force the Knicks to pay a little bit more than they want to, and that's good, and good for OG. Get paid,
and
bro.
He fits like a glove. And he fits
Exactly.
like a glove
So the
in his
Raptors have this great relationship with OG. Whether they sign him outright, they will absolutely play leverage because they have all this cap space. And the one deal in all of this, the one deal that never made sense to me, even though it was the one deal that was on my Christmas wish list, it was the one deal I wanted more than anything. You remember what that deal was?
Trading Dennis Schroeder?
Yes. Trading Dennis Schroeder to eat $20 million of cap space on Spencer Dinwiddie to open up $11 extra million next year just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like, this feels like such a weird, like, the only reason you ever do this, if you're the Toronto Raptors, is if you genuinely like Spencer Dinwiddie and you believe that he's a worthwhile veteran to bring into your team, which was not the case, or Dennis Schroeder is just the worst player in the world and he has no value, which is also not the case.
But also, once they realize, okay, the Pascal, all the remnants of championship past, it's over. We're done. Complete rebuild. We're going with Scotty 100%. Dennis was brought on this team not as Team Scotty and Team Future, but it was let's be competitive and see what happens. So since we went away from that, we don't need this guy on this roster.
That's what they said, but he's still an asset. He still outplayed his contract. He wasn't having a bad year. I don't like Dennis Schroeder. I couldn't stand his personality.
Me too.
But let's not ignore that he was technically playing above his contract. There was a team out there that could have used him. There had to be.
Yeah. In that sense, I agree. They could have found better.
So you're telling me that there were no suitors for this guy other than to take on a $20 million fucking pump and dump, like, like a salary dump, like Spencer Dinwiddie, where you got nothing. You couldn't even get a second round pick for it.
I mean, Rob, players talk. That dude's been on 6 in 6 years, and none of them want him back.
I get it, but there's
not like he's
got
the
to
commodity.
be a worse contract. Like, look, if I'm the Raptors, like, I'm looking at Dennis Schroeder, like, okay, I got a backup guard. I got a world full of. You telling me Denver couldn't have used him as a shot maker? You're telling me Denver couldn't have used him as an upgrade on Reggie Jackson or something like that, or
What would they have traded away for him?
that's the question, right? I don't know. But even if one of those teams was willing to take on a little less Dennis contract, even if, okay, let me let me look at the league and let me tell you a team that should have been able to offer something for Dennis. Hold on, I'm gonna look at players.
By the way, if we get OG,
Mm-hmm.
and he's plotted in our starting lineup, and we literally do nothing else, and we stay healthy,
Mm-hmm.
the only team I'm concerned with is Boston, a healthy Milwaukee, and even
Mhm.
then, and a healthy Philly. That's it. That is it. And at this point, a healthy Milwaukee and a healthy Philly is science fiction at this point.
Fair. Okay, here are players who roughly make the same money as him. Landry Shamet. Okay. Matisse Thybulle.
Isn't that Washington? What the hell would Washington want with him?
Matisse Thybulle's not on Washington.
Yeah, but it's Portland. What the hell would Portland want with him?
Be a
I think-
mentor for Scoot Henderson.
I think Shamit's in Washington or wherever he's at.
He is. Maxi Kleber, that's not happening. PJ Tucker.
We're assuming a contender, like a quasi contender, someone that can use him for a push.
Right. Rob Williams and his complex injury history, Robert Covington and Nick Batum. I think these were possible options if you think of trading him to Philly, right? As expiring contract. Could Philly have used him more than they could have used those guys?
Okay.
Right. Another guy would be Rashawn Holmes. As a flip, like the Raptors had a need for center. Jakob Poeltl was going to miss out a ton of time. They were going to, try. Well,
Do you think? I think he rubbed people the wrong way. I think they tried to get him out of Dodge as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like the way the Fred VanVleet thing ended, and there were things eerily similar of the way
Kevin Huerter
Dennis was handling the situation, and how he kept going on the Will Lose show, and he'd say things we all knew were bullshit. Like we'd see one thing and he'd say another thing, and it's like, and then the relationship between him and Darko, and how he would be in over his skis. It just was weird. It was just weird. And it's like, he thinks he's Fred and he's way worse with no cachet. It's like, dude, get the fuck out of here.
No cachet. Of the many criticisms of Dennis Schroeder, I don't necessarily think I would have ever used the word no cachet with him, but interesting. Yes.
The way he walks and talks, you think he
won like 7 championships? I know. I mean, okay, here's a person that probably, Phoenix, if they could have packaged fuck. Nasir Little, no, they can't.
How many more wins does Phoenix have if they had Dennis Schroeder against the Wolves?
In place of who though? They can't trade for him. What, they're gonna trade half their roster to get him? Like, they have all these guys on minimum contracts. That their cap sheet is so weird. Bradley Beal might be the worst contract in the NBA. He is the worst contract. He might be the worst contract of all time. Yeah, he's up there.
For that team, what he eats up.
I mean, Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas was a really, really bad contract, but and that came with extracurriculars as well. At least Bradley Beal is a good guy. Gilbert Arenas straight trash.
At his height, he was much better. Like when he signed it, it didn't seem like the worst thing in the world.
Bro, do you remember when he signed it? He had already had like a bunch of injuries. I
Yeah.
feel like that was a very questionable signing when they made it. And his response to getting that money was crazy. The exact quote, I remember it like it's tattooed on my brain. You didn't pay me for the player I'm gonna be. You paid me for the player I was. I was like, this guy's cooked.
But
Cooked.
the Phoenix one's worse because they traded for it.
That is true.
Like they just took it upon themselves to
Eventually, didn't some team also trade for Gill's contract? I mean, didn't he end up on Orlando?
Orlando.
Yeah. So I
but
mean,
the contract was expiring. I'm pretty sure there wasn't much left on it.
I gotta look back on that
It was
chapter
a
in
funny
NBA
team
history.
though. It was Gilbert Arenas, Vince Carter. It was like has-beens just and Dwight Howard.
Was Gill on that team with Vince?
Yeah, I think.
And they didn't go back because it's interesting. Vince always showed up right after the party ended. He went to New Jersey after they made their finals run. He showed up to
Dallas after the title.
Orlando after their finals run. It just sucked for Vince, bro. And I don't think he necessarily had anything to do with that. Just bad timing.
It really breaks my heart that people who are decision makers for the Raptors vetoed him joining the Raptors on the championship run.
Yeah,
That
and Kyle Lowry really pushed for it too.
By the way, speaking of Kyle Lowry,
Mhm.
you know how we were talking about the OG situation, and I'm pretty sure the Raptors are going to get a meeting with OG, right?
I believe they will. Yes.
Imagine
and Scotty Barnes will be in that meeting.
Oh no, not even just Scotty. Imagine Scott Dark. It's Masai walks in, Bobby walks in, Darko walks in, Scotty walks in, RJ walks in, IQ walks in, Grady walks in,
Big meeting room.
And Kyle Lowry walks in, and he says no to that. And it's
Yo,
like, yo, and it's like,
I
yo,
will, I will make the pitch right now. Okay, we're gonna. Okay, here's my pitch to OG Anunoby. Straight up, you're OG Anunoby. We're gonna make you sit over there. We're gonna paint a court. Okay, we're gonna paint a court on the table. We're gonna put you in the corner. We're gonna bring the entire team. Right, they're gonna stand around the table. All right, I gotta paint this out for you, bro. This is like an epic rant I'm about to go on. Okay, so you're sitting there. You're OG Anunoby. You're sitting at the corner, left corner of the table. I bring out Scotty Barnes, Masai Ujiri. I bring out all these guys. I bring Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly. I bring Chris Boucher. I bring out everybody. We're surrounding the table. And he's like, yo, what's up? What kind of meeting is this? It's kind of crazy. Then we bring out Taco Fall, right? We stand him at one corner. And we get him to put his hands up, right? And then we get Kyle Lowry to come up and throw OG a fucking contract right over Taco Fall's head. Signed on the spot.
listen,
You got to have the stage presence, man. That is the greatest fucking sales pitch ever. And you know who we don't bring out? We do not bring out Drake. We bring out Kendrick Lamar to say we are turning the leaf. All right.
Somebody in the comment section said, and Trudeau. I was like, yeah, no.
No.
We're trying to sign him.
Banned.
But
we banned the prime minister. We banned the mayor. All these people. None of them.
I'm like, that'd be a dream scenario to get OG, and it's like, man, the East is so gettable. Like even Boston is beatable. Like Boston ain't no. This is what's so great about the NBA right now. The parity is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, like OG, like my biggest thought on OG is he does so much for Scotty. Right?
Yep.
Like Scotty with OG is basketball synergy 101. Defensively, they are elite. Now you pair Jakob, a healthy Jakob, you put Ochai hopefully getting better, you put the team together. I do think Emmanuel Quickly has much more potential defensively than he's shown.
Yep.
I think Darko can coach a competent defense. I do think OG takes you into playoff contention. I do think it makes you better than Cleveland. I think it makes you better than Orlando. I think it makes you better than a lot of teams in the East.
Yep.
And by the way, he's 26 years old. He'd be the old guy in that core. He and Jakob are still in their 20s, and they're the old guys. Like, you fully get to move on. And we know the Raptors like to bring guys back because they just brought Jakob back, right?
Look, the way this conference is going, like Milwaukee, Dame another year older. Middleton, another year older. Brook Lopez, another year older. Giannis has been injured 2 years in a row at the end of the year, and he ain't getting any younger.
Facts.
Oh my goodness. Embiid, every year is hurt.
Embiid is 100 years old at this point.
Yeah, his knees are 300 years old.
Yep.
It's
He's
like
a mummy. He's basically a mummy at this
if
point.
you get OG, Scotty makes the jump. IQ makes a jump. RJ makes a little jump. Grady
Yeah, you're basically better than the Knicks, bro.
Yeah, no, we are.
Like people say, like, oh, OG wants to compete, OG wants to contend. It's like, bro, if he and Isaiah Hartenstein leaves the Knicks, they're not contending. He is the balance. He is the power. He has the power to turn either Philly into a dynasty, or he can turn Toronto into an actual playoff team, or he can turn the Knicks into a contender. And I feel like, from a basketball perspective, I feel Philly makes the most sense. Just going to say that out there.
Yeah,
I think Philly makes the most sense. I
think
hate it, but it's true. Tyrese Maxey plus Joel Embiid, coach that he already knows, staff that he already knows. I get it. I think New York makes sense if I believe the premise that he wanted to be there in the first place, which I don't. I don't necessarily think that's true. And frankly, if this was really a push on his end where, people keep telling me, like, every time I bring this up, they're like, oh, he didn't want to play in Toronto. I hate to break it to you. It's like, here's a question that no one's asked. Okay. Scotty's the most selfless guy I've ever seen. Okay. He loves his teammates. He's attuned to his teammates. He knows what they're about. He was closer than anybody on this team to OG. You could see it. You fully could, right? On the court, off the court. They hung out. He was the one guy. He would get super mad in his lives when Jake Fisher started saying that OG wanted a bigger role and he wanted to get traded. He fucking blasted Jake Fisher. He was so mad about that. Okay. That whole time he was so mad about that. He never got mad about Fred VanVleet rumors ever. Never got mad about Pascal rumors. It was only OG. So I don't know if I'm making this a bigger thing in my head, but my pulse on this says OG and Scotty vibe different. If OG wanted to be in New York, why would Scotty be upset that he left? That's the thing. And sometimes you got to understand the person before you understand the situation. The person in the situation is Scotty. Scotty is the barometer. Scotty is the immature, 22-year-old that everyone's always harping on, like he can't control his emotions. Yeah, he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he was genuinely upset that OG left. So the question is, the guy who loves his teammates, his favorite teammate gets his big wish, and Scotty's suddenly upset. I don't ever see that happening. Also, never in a million years.
To add to that, I never believed the Raptors wanted to trade OG. They wanted to trade Pascal. But
OG made no sense. You had to trade one of them. Why would you trade both?
But I think they needed to do a rebuild. And since they waited so long, that OG was the one that was going to get them more. Right? They needed running mates with Scotty. It was a trade you almost had to do.
Well, here's
considering the position they put themselves in, right?
Facts. But I think like there's a growing sentiment around the league of like, well, if the Raptors do manage to pull this off, no one will ever do business with them again because it'll look so bad and blah, 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 blah. I don't seem to remember this being the case when Jakob Poeltl was a threat to go back to the Spurs. I think it's a big deal because OG's on the Knicks are the Knicks, and OG's a better player than Jakob. But the truth is, with the situation going on between the Toronto Raptors and the Knicks, I believe the rest of the league would fully understand that this is an isolated situation. And again, among 13 WNBA teams, all voted unanimously for Toronto to get a WNBA team. 29 of 30 NBA teams voted for the Toronto to get a WNBA team. Knicks still salty as fuck, bro. So why are they so salty? They got OG. Why are they so salty?
Mm-hmm.
Why are these reports coming out that he's listening to other offers? I'm telling you, man. Worst case, the Raptors sent him on a 6-month trip to New York to get to Philadelphia, and basically fucked over the Knicks in the process by getting what they could from the Knicks and depleting them. Because if the Knicks lose OG right now, how are you going into next season? You're going into next season with Julius Randle, a lot of questions. Isaiah Hartenstein probably finally not making $9 million unless they convince him to take it's not the same situation anymore. And OG is like this massive, massive, massive thing that they don't have. They don't have anything like him. And Precious Achua, I don't want to hear nothing about that. So you can spend the $10 million on Precious, resign him. You can spend $25 million or $20 million on Isaiah Hartenstein, sign him. You can trade, Julius Randle and some picks that you have left for something. I don't know what you're going to get for that. Maybe you can make a play for Zach LaVine. I'm hearing Donovan Mitchell, because they fired JB Bickerstaff and he wasn't really a fan of JB Bickerstaff. Donovan Mitchell might sign back with Cleveland for $208 million. Well, that takes one guy off the table there too.
Well,
so unless, who's coming through the door to save the Knicks?
I mean, somebody does, because Brunson, this is unsustainable, this workload. It's not sustainable. He will break down.
Yeah.
So he needs help. He needs real help.
I agree. And look, if I'm OG's friend, and I'm not, but if I was OG's friend, I would literally send him to talk to Luol Deng about the pros and cons of playing under, Tom Thibodeau in your prime. Look, man, like people say this is his last big contract. I don't necessarily think it has to be. He's not a guy who's played a huge number of minutes. He missed a ton of time. He's missed a lot of time. And he didn't exactly I know he came to the league, not as an 18-year-old or anything, but it's not like he has a ton of miles. You know what I mean? Like for a guy who's 26, he doesn't have to have a ton of miles on his legs. So he could have a productive career up until 35. That's a lot of money.
Do you think OG would rather play for, I know he's only played for this coach for about a couple months. Mm-hmm. Do you think he'd rather be coached by Darko Rajakovic and what they got going over there, or relive the Nick Nurse experience?
I think that Darko and OG have a bond. I really do.
I think he was fed up with Nick Nurse and his favoritism to his two guys. I think he was fed up with playing defense and watching other guys be held to different standards. I truly believe that rubbed him the wrong way. And I really honestly believe there was a faction of the younger guys, and OG and Gary and Scotty were speaking amongst each other in a way where they resented what was going on. And I think that's still at the top of his mind, right?
It's a different situation, though. Now you're playing with Joel Embiid and
I get it.
Tyrese Maxey. There's not Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. There's no denying that OG will take the third seat there, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that it's worth pointing out that OG has literally never been used less on offense than he was with the Knicks. So to point it out exactly, if we are to believe the initial reports that he wanted a bigger role, well, his usage dipped with New York. In fairness, though, it also dipped with the Raptors this year. And
so did but so does Pascal's.
Yeah, and I mean, look, again, OG is one of those guys where his impact is so weird. It's hard for me to say analytically, how is he so great? Because, again, 0.6 boxes minus as a Knick, 0.5 value of replacement. These numbers do not scream max contract, right? He is such a ceiling raiser, but he's not a floor raiser. And I've always found that analytics favored floor raisers over ceiling raisers. So they're always going to favor a LeBron because he's a massive floor raiser, right? But a Robert Horry, that's a ceiling raiser. So the question then becomes, what's your current ceiling that you're even trying to raise it? Are we even on the timeline to afford an OG, right? Or do you take a Dyson Daniels and try to develop an OG?
How much, let's say we don't get OG, how much are you willing to give up for Danny Avdija?
Not as much as you, because I foresee some serious issues with bringing another non-shooter into this team to play with Jakob Poeltl and Scotty Barnes. Yeah.
So who is this?
I think Patrick Williams, in another world, kind of fits a mold, right? That you could explore that
for the right price.
For the right price, not at his price, but for the right price. If you're just looking for that 3-and-D archetype, I think drafting somebody at 19, 20 who fits that archetype might be a way to go as well, because sometimes older guys get overlooked in the draft. There are probably some guys who fit that mold. I could see us maybe, I don't think Herb Jones is going anywhere. That's a steal of a lifetime type of deal, and I don't think those types of deals get moved. But also his current contract is going to really limit what his next contract can be, and so they might want to get off that next year. I don't know. But Dyson is like one player that I always like isolated as like in a bigger role. Dyson Daniels, the best defender on the Raptors, or one of the best defenders on the Raptors, one of the two best defenders on the Raptors. And it's just like, his value is not so high right now because he plays behind a really, really talented wing roster. But if Dyson Daniels was on like, I don't know, Sacramento Kings or, a team that had a serious need for point of attack defense, he would be talked about very differently. So that being said, it's not David Griffin's not an idiot. He knows what he has in him, right? So like he understands.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking of like if you combine Bruce Brown's contract, Boucher's contract, and
Jaden McDaniels.
Jaden McDaniels' contract. It's like, we can get a max guy.
You could.
Like you can
but unfortunately, because like that max guy is going to be Bradley Beal, but he has no trade clause, or Zach LaVine. You're not getting like a real max.
What are your thoughts on? I know this has been brought up probably before, but Towns. Him at the 5,
$49 million for a big who does not defend super well. That's
the offense would be insane, though.
In theory, the offense would be insane, but in reality, he's the highest paid player on one of the worst offenses in the playoffs. So, what are Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett going to do for him that Mike Conley and Anthony Edwards can't do for him right now? Is the question to ask, right? Is like, I don't know. He's
give me the trio. Give me the offensive trio of Scotty, RJ, and IQ over any trio that's working around him right now on the Wolves.
This is the answer on the screen. It's Lauri Markkanen. That's the answer. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah,
but
and
man,
it's going to cost an arm and a leg. You will not love what they're asking for.
Yeah, and it's Danny Ainge. Like Danny Ainge is not going to fuck himself over, right?
Yeah.
So that's
I'm getting realistic. I'm giving realistic options where it's not an arm and a leg.
Right, but then it's funny. Lauri Markkanen was a piece of the deal for Donovan Mitchell, and now they're asking back for him pretty much what they were asking for Donovan Mitchell. I guarantee you right now, if you call up the Caps and say we want Donovan Mitchell, and you call up the Jazz and say we want Lauri Markkanen, they're pretty much asking for the same thing for both those guys. And the Jazz got a hell of a lot more than just Lauri Markkanen.
I know,
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's crazy how a guy ascending, being in the right position. That's why I say sometimes the unimaginative fan almost always wants to go for the ready-made solution. But I'm saying sometimes you got to go for the upside solution. And sometimes upside is pure hypothetical, like with Jaden McDaniels, where it's like, oh, here's a 6'9" guy who can shoot a little. Let's see if he knows how to play basketball. Sometimes the upside is revisionist, like with Bruce Brown. Let's see if he can find some of the magic he had with Nikola Jokic, but this time with Scotty and Jakob. Didn't work out that way. But sometimes I think it is like a matter of fact certainty, like it was with Paul George.
Yeah.
At
a certain point, everybody can see it.
Yeah. Like, sorry, not Paul George, Jermaine O'Neal. Jermaine O'Neal in Portland when he went over to Indiana. I just got the wrong Indiana superstar. Or like it was for Drazen Petrovic. You know what I mean? Like there is some element of like, how is it going to scale up? But the skills are all there. So with Dyson Daniels, I continue to pound the Dyson Daniels bandwagon. And I feel like he's just... I feel like I've made more Dyson Daniels content than any person who's not covering the New Orleans Pelicans. Like, I've never heard anyone talk about Dyson Daniels as much as I do. It's just because I've watched him so closely, going back to the G League, and I know the Raptors like him. Like, I know the Raptors like him.
Yeah. But I love him too. It's just, man, if he was taller. God.
He's 6'6", 6'7". How much bigger you want him to be?
Is he?
He's big dude. I've met him.
Whoa, hold on. Basketball Reference has him as 6'8". Get the fuck out. He's 6'8"?
He's 6'7".
Okay, so
yeah, he's like OG size, bro. Like I think he measured 6'6.5" without shoes. I'm pretty sure.
No, he defensively, yeah, there's not much better than him right now. And he's what, 20? 21. He just turned 21. Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, Dyson's like if you study the numbers on his defense, like, there is a world in which he is like one of the top 10 defenders in the league with a bigger role. Like, people might start talking about him like that. And I feel like, God, what the fuck is his name? Jonah Hill in Moneyball, when I'm trying to pitch you on, like, you watch the movie Moneyball, where he's just trying to say, like, this guy, nobody likes him because of this and that. But you put him on this, and he's going to be this much. He costs this much, and this is what that's what I feel about Dyson Daniels. I don't know how much the New Orleans Pelicans value him, because they do have Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, Jordan Hawkins that they just drafted, who has a little bit more offensive pop and shooting upside. Jose Alvarado. They have a ton of backcourt and wing players, right? Herb Jones, Trey Murphy III. Trey Murphy's going to get paid a ton of money. So that's a small market team. They're not super rich. I feel like Dyson Daniels is maybe the type.
Who do you think is more gettable right now? Dyson Daniels or Brandon Ingram?
Dyson.
Then let's get him. Now, the problem is we're going to give them the Bruiser Brown contract, obviously. And the gap between their salaries is about 18 million. So we're going to,
yeah, people are going to look at Dyson Daniels' three-point shooting percentage, like John saying 28% three-point shooter. I get it. I totally do. Trust me. I get that. But he's 20. He just turned 21. Like, I give him some time.
Super low volume. Super low.
It is super low volume. And he got better. Like, he had a solid rookie season, and he followed it up with a better rookie season, a better sophomore season. Just take a look here. His defensive boxes minus, if I compare this to OG's this year, it's higher than OG's. Just to give you an idea of that. Hold on. Let me compare it to OG, actually. Like, he's so good defensively. He's like...
We're going to have to take a contract back from them, though. And JB's expiring, so can't take his back. His contract is done.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be like Larry Nance. Larry Nance is the only guy we could take back.
Larry Nance is awesome. But you don't need to take back anything. You can just give them picks.
We don't have to match salary. We're trading $22 million for 5.7 or 6.
We're trading Bruce Brown?
I mean,
we don't have to. We can trade Jaden McDaniels' expiring contract and give them, like, picks. I would give multiple picks for him, by the way. Okay, so this is the oh wow. Okay, this is crazy. So these are the numbers on OG versus Dyson Daniels. And to anyone who believes in value of replacement at all, Dyson Daniels played 400 less minutes than OG Anunoby and managed to get a higher value of replacement than him at 6 years younger. He also had a 2.5 defensive boxes minus, while OG had a 0.5. I know some people don't want to really believe in this because Dyson often comes off the bench and whatever, but he did start 16 games from last year. He's not a scrub. Like, people want to act like he's a scrub on zero volume, whatever. Their PER is next to almost the same. Dyson has a higher assist percentage, higher steal percentage, similar block percentage, higher turnover percentage, but he's just creating more. He had more win shares than OG. He has more win shares per 48 than OG. Like, we are talking about fucking, like, a very different type of player than OG. He's more creative. He's better off the bounce. He's a terrible shooter. His only defect right now is that he's a bad shooter. If he wasn't a bad shooter, you're not getting him. If he's not a bad shooter, he's a max player. In my opinion, he's going to be a max player if he's not a bad shooter. That's how good his defense is.
Okay, so here are the picks. Tell me if they do it. Our pick this year, our 2 picks this year, and the Pacers 26 pick for Dyson Daniels.
Wait, say that again?
Our 19th and 31st pick this year, and the Pacers first in 2026.
It's not enough. I feel like you need to add something of actual significance into that, because the Pacers are on the upswing and people expect them to be good. The Raptors are themselves a pretty reputable organization that people expect to be good. So it's hard to think that you have like one of those picks of consequence, like the Brooklyn Nets 2025 unprotected or something like that, where people will be like, oh my God. But I think it's a start, especially, but unfortunately New Orleans has a pick. This isn't a very strong draft, so I think that factors into the valuation of it. I think it would probably take, I'm inclined to say that instead of Indiana 2026, you might have to give up your own 2026.
That's fine.
Like top 3 protected, top 4 protected, or something like that. It's a big risk. It's a big risk to take because you could end up in the same Jakob Poeltl situation again. But at least this time you're doing it for a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
Who fits a major need for you, man. Like they honestly, they tried to do some shitty version of this with Ochai Agbaji. Another guy with a lot of offensive question marks. They're trying to turn him into this awesome point of attack defender. Dyson Daniels is 2 years younger than Ochai.
Way better.
And he is like physically on a completely different stratosphere. Just as an athlete, he's always on balance. Like Dyson Daniels has, in my opinion, the potential to be a top 5 defender in the NBA, at least a top 5 wing defender in the NBA. At 21 years old, you just don't pass that up. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Owen saying, what does the starting lineup look like with Dyson Daniels? Honestly, I think he becomes your backup 1, 2, 3. He becomes like the ultimate 6-man.
Who's starting? Who's the 5th starter?
Probably Grady. Or maybe, because it's just
why Grady?
The shooting concern here is significant, right? With Dyson, he's a non-shooter. You play him with Jakob. You have 2 non-shooters out there that the defense just sags off of.
The gift that I'm giving.
I know. So unless you're trading away Jakob as well to find a spacing 5, playing him with Kelly Olynyk would be great. Plus, you play him with Kelly Olynyk. Maybe you also play him with Grady off the bench, and then you get Ochai or someone just to serviceably slot into the starting spot, or bring back Gary because now you're in a completely different plane. Or hey, we still have the cap space. Sign OG anyway. Put OG in the starting lineup and trade away future picks for Dyson Daniels and literally create the best defense in the East. Because with Scotty, Dyson, OG, and Yak, ain't nobody scoring on that shit ever.
Imagine.
Like the positional versatility, like we are seeing it right now on that last play with Rudy Gobert and OG, Rudy Gobert and Luka Doncic. You see the value of a guy who can guard up positions and guard down positions. Dyson can guard 1 through 4. In my opinion, I'm comfortable putting him on a 4 and saying this guy's big enough to guard 4s. He's quick enough to guard 1s. That's not anything I can say about anyone on the Raptors right now. I used to be able to say about OG. So he has a lot of that OG stuff. I think if it's not him, then who, right? Like who has that single impact defensively to clean up shit for other people? Jonathan Isaac, but there's a lot of injury, concerns there. But fewer shooting concerns at least, right? And Jonathan Isaac could even play like some small ball 5 for you in a pinch. So I don't know. Like, wouldn't it be great if we just like completely turned from like one of the worst defensive teams to one of the best by trading for Jonathan Isaacs and Dyson Daniels and signing OG? Can we make that happen? I would pretty much faint.
No,
if all 3 of those things could happen, I would faint.
If we got OG and traded for Dyson Daniels, I mean, just watching that starting lineup, especially OG, Scotty, IQ, and RJ, and then having Dyson Daniels and Grady Dick coming off the bench. Oh my God, what a dream! What a
Yeah.
dream! It's like you fell asleep at the start of last season and you woke up from a nightmare.
Yeah, it would be great.
Woke up, oh
And
my
the reason,
goodness!
the other reason I keep bringing up Dyson with Toronto is because Toronto was really, really interested in him before he shot up draft boards. He wasn't supposed to be the 8th overall pick. He was supposed to go much lower. And initially he was being mocked around the end of the first round. So there was like some serious, conversations with him. I also made a mental note that the Raptors had a really good relationship with Ochai Agbaji. So there's sometimes these things do come back, like you put it in your head, you put it in your notes, like 2019, Toronto really likes this guy. And then 2023, they're trading for him at the trade deadline. So you're just like, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, Dyson Daniels, just one of those guys I just pencil in as if he ever, the Raptors will be the first team to call for him.
Do you like him more than Herb Jones?
Yes. Only because he is 4 years younger, maybe 5 years younger, and he's still on his rookie contract, so you have longer team control, whereas with Herb, you could lose him in 2 years. Also, his playmaking cannot be understated. Like, he is a really good playmaker.
Who would you have to give up less to get him? Who would you have to give up more to get?
Herb.
Yeah.
Because he's the more ready-made product. He is like, again, when people see what OG gets, right? Honestly, the gap between OG and Herb is not big at all. I watch them both. I love OG. No offense to OG Anunoby. The gap is not that big. There just aren't a lot of guys in the league that can really do the stuff that these guys do. There's like 4, right? And then there's a whole bunch of guys who, in theory, might be able to. That's where you start getting into your Jabari Smiths, your, to a much higher degree, Dyson Daniels, where you start looking at point of attack defenders who have like big question marks on offense, and you say, man, if this guy can figure it out. And that's where I think the Raptors, went with Ochai, but his defensive upside is not anywhere close to these guys.
And his height and length aren't even, it's not the same either. It's like,
exactly. So at best case, you're getting like Tony Allen, which is not exactly worth busting the bank over.
He's a knockoff Tony Allen. Like,
right. But that's also why he was available. Right?
Yeah.
If he was Dyson Daniels, you wouldn't have gotten him in that pick. It wouldn't have gotten him in that trade. You would have to give up like 3 first-round picks to get him.
Okay.
The same trade. If Dyson Daniels was on the Utah Jazz at the same time that Ochai Agbaji was, and the Raptors said, "Hey, we like Ochai, but we'd like to swap them for Dyson," I guarantee you that the asking price, goes up by 2 draft picks if Danny Ainge is willing to let go of him at all, which I don't think he would be willing to. He just fits. See, like I value positional versatility and portability so much because of the playoffs, right? When I think about the playoffs, and that's why OG is so valuable, by the way, and that's why OG is more valuable than even a guy like Dyson Daniels, way more valuable, because OG can legit play 1 through 4, like defensively.
Yeah.
And he can play like relatively with some ease 2 through 5 offensively.
Mm-hmm.
So he becomes like a really small ball stretch 5 or a small ball stretch 4 or a prototypical 3-and-D. Like, he can shapeshift. So when Julius Randle's playing, you just slot OG in and it's a perfect fit. It just works fine. When Julius is not playing, he slots in for Julius, and you can play small in the backcourt, and he's just manning the front court. So OG is like I don't know. He's like insurance. You know what I mean? Insurance is never worth what you pay for until you have to cash in, right? He just protects everything, and he cleans up so much. It's like I cannot ignore the gap between Scottie with OG and Scottie after OG left. It's such a seismic difference in those 2 players. It's provided the spacing. He takes so much of the defensive load off of Scottie and the other players, and that allows them to have healthy legs. So much of like OG's, like if you've ever watched OG up close, like I watched OG up close a few times, in my life. It was at like borderline courtside. The sweat just drips off this guy.
Yeah.
Hardest working guy on the basketball court. And just crazy.
Watching these playoffs, this series between the Mavs and the Timberwolves, having Anthony Edwards guard Kyrie Irving on one end and then asked to create, it's just not sustainable in today's NBA with the pace. It's just not. It's lunacy. That's why I keep harping on the point where it's like, wait, you want Scotty Barnes to be the go-to defender and the go-to. You're gonna wear this dude out. He ain't gonna make it.
Right.
Also, whatever you think OG is gonna get, right? OG gets paid first. The big guys get paid first. They set the market.
Mhm.
What does Derrick Jones Jr. get?
Good question. 12 to 15
from the Mavs.
From somebody.
I mean, if they win the championship, which it looks like they could,
Then he's Bruce Brown. Then he's Bruce Brown.
Yeah,
all over again. He's going to get 12 to 15. I think someone will have cap space. They'll see the upside on him. I think you could make a case that maybe it's a contract year, Herculean effort, or you can make a case that he's just emerging, that this is who he's been all along. He just needed a place. Seen a lot of people pop in contract years and maybe not be able to replicate that type of success. Grant Williams, hasn't really been the same player he was for the Celtics. Sometimes it's just a guy in a situation. They call those players system players. I don't necessarily think he's a system player, but man, can you think of a better dynamic duo to play off of for a slashing wing who has some spacing issues himself and some shooting concerns, like with a wonky jump shot? Like, I love his defense, but man, it's working on a string with that elite rim protection. He's a really big part of their point of attack defense, and I would love for the Raptors to have a player like him. And in theory, maybe Ochai Agbaji can become a smaller version of that. I'm hoping for him, but I don't see
Don't
it.
hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. From what I saw at the end of the season from that guy, I was massively disappointed. And speaking of Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington, that's the type of player the Raptors need. That 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", versatile forward, 3-4, right? We didn't have that. We talked about it many times. We just have a bunch of guards and Scotty, right? We need size. We need length. We lost it all in the trades. And that's the reason why the Mavs are good. They got two of them, and those guys are playing 35-plus minutes every game. And they take the defensive load off their two stars. And that's what we need to do.
I do
Take
feel like the
defensive load
Raptors
off
have
our guys.
athletes, though. I do feel like the Raptors have athletes now. Like, Grady is a surprisingly better athlete than people give him credit for. Scotty's an elite athlete. RJ's an elite athlete. Like, maybe not the prototypical type of athlete, but if you're talking Scotty, RJ, Emmanuel Quickly versus Scotty, Pascal, and Fred, I'll tell you which one of those teams is more athletic, right?
Mhm.
Functional athleticism in basketball, of course, comes down to balance, strength, size, wingspan, all of it. The Raptors had a whole bunch of very similar style athletes that all had very similar style mistakes and weaknesses. They just need complementary athletes. The fact that they want to play up and down the court means that they really do need a big who can run with that. And neither Kelly nor Jakob necessarily fit that bill, although Kelly can fit into that a little bit better, in my opinion, as a stretch big who trails on plays.
Yeah.
But like a lob threat big, like a Derek Lively, would be a seamless fit. That's why, again, I remain harping on the Christian Koloko kerfuffle, or his health. Notwithstanding, I hope he can come back. But having a player like that, or an Yves Missi or someone like that on your roster, would really help, because not only does it initiate sort of your transition because they're a rim protector who can block shots and create that, but also just having a rim protector who can pass the ball a little bit and run the floor is such a godsend for your spacing. Because the big, as we saw with Derek Lively, if you remember the play, look at how a big like Derek Lively can drag, on a pick and roll. He drags Jalen McDaniels out of this play, right? He's literally on the switch, Rudy Gobert, and if he doesn't dive fast enough, he's the hero of this play, right? Because I'll tell you right now, if that's Jaden McDaniels on him, Luka is not getting that shot off as cleanly as he got it off of Rudy Gobert. He has to go through something else. So it's probably going to be a 2, then we're going to go to overtime, and then we can, have that debate about where that happened. But because Derek Lively is such a presence and such a finishing threat and a passing threat and a short roll threat in this position, he becomes unswitchable. So he forces the switch. He forces the switch and to say like you can't recover on this, right? And I think like having a big who can create that type of separation just through sheer darts and gravity and rolling to the rim would unlock Scotty's playmaking in a way where people will be talking about him like he is the next Luka, you know? So I think that's an important, type. And then also like replacing that OG Anunoby athletic type, like the big, burly, strong forward who has like that sort of hip flexibility and mobility to move around the court. Yeah, you're right. You lost a lot of that in those trades. You need to get some of it back. So yeah, but overall, I think the Raptors are a pretty athletic team. And I think Grady's a part of that. I think RJ's a really good athlete, they can play with speed next year. They can play with a lot of speed. They can do a lot of what the Indiana Pacers could do potentially,
But my only concern is when Jakob's on the bench and you have barbecue on the court, right? You have BBQ and then let's say Grady. Who's the fifth guy? Or let's say it's BBQ. Who are the other two ending the game? Like who's your closing five? What's your death lineup? You know what I mean?
I don't think we have one.
That's what I'm saying.
Are we getting Draymond? We could have
I'm saying if we have OG or Dyson Daniels, we already have 4 members of that team.
That's true.
Like right now, we only have 3 guys you can pencil in.
I mean, did you see the surprising success the Celtics had going with Jason Tatum at the 5? The other day, 2 days ago against Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam. Well, the Raptors could do that with Scotty Barnes, and it'd be even better than going to Jason Tatum because I think Scotty has.
Jaylen Brown's bigger than anybody else.
Jaylen's 6'6". How's he bigger than RJ Barrett? Same size.
He's not bigger than RJ Barrett?
They're the same size. Same size player, man. RJ Barrett's like underrated big, bro. People always say he's too small for the small forward. I'm like, bro, how big are small forwards in your mind?
I'm not saying he's too small for small forward, but
some people say that.
He's small ball 4?
You think Jaylen Brown's a small ball 4?
Who's the 4? Who's the 4 on the lineup for
O'Shea? O'Shea Brissett was the 4.
Okay, yeah. See, we don't have an O'Shea Brissett.
Okay, well, you can get him.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He's a minimum contract guy.
We just need one more guy, OG Scotty size. Just one more.
Denny Avdia. There you go. There's your 6'8". No, man. Like I think you need to draft this guy. I really think the Raptors need to get back to their roots of developing and drafting and sleuthing and scouting, whatever. And I hope they find someone good in this draft. At least one of their 2 picks better work out. And I hope like maybe they find someone in the undrafted heap or whatever, because there is a real talent deficit on this team, and it is glaring.
And for all those people saying we're not good, we're going to be bad this year. We need a tank for this. Here's my question to all those people. If Scotty Barnes doesn't get injured, if Jakob Poeltl doesn't get injured, if RJ's brother doesn't die, if IQ's uncle doesn't die, right? Where does the season end after the first 3-game win streak ever of the season happened after the All-Star break with the young kids? Where are we at the end of the year? Now,
but by the way, just a little bit of Schadenfreude. We did get that win. That third win was in Indiana, wasn't it? Or was it in Sacramento? I can't remember now. God damn it! It's so rare that the Raptors won three wins, and I can't even remember who the fuck they won against. Damn it! I literally have to go and look up Scotty Barnes's game log. I'm pretty sure it was against the Indiana Pacers and it was against Pascal Siakam. There was this whole debate about whether or not Pascal Siakam deserves some of the pizza. I'm pretty sure it was Pascal.
He deserves not a single slice of that 3-game win streak.
Right. I think they would have finished with about 34 wins, which again paints the picture of a team that would have finished in the lottery. However, it's worth saying, when you tell someone that a team that won 20 something is going to jump to 40, their brain just loses it because they're bad at math. However, there were some extenuating circumstances because the Raptors did go from getting Scotty Barnes straight to making the playoffs, if I remember correctly. Y'all remember that? Yeah, because that's what happens when you tank. You artificially make yourself worse. The Raptors tanked straight up. You know, Scotty could have played the last 5 games. He chose not to. Well, he didn't choose not to. They told him not to. So that is fact. Scotty Barnes would have played down the stretch. Hold on. Let's see here. Where are their 3 wins? Okay, the Raptors won 3 wins. Yes. Brooklyn, Atlanta, Indiana. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And we were playing well. We were playing well. Man, we were playing well. Now, and it's like, do you think...
Who did we really beat there, though?
Do you think wins will be harder to come by in the East next year for us?
They could be. Okay, here's Scotty's entire season in a nutshell, okay? Focus on this column, the boxes minus column, just to give you an idea of where his season started and where his season ended. Hold on, let me just pull this up, pull it back. Okay, boom. So here, I mean, again, prorated to 84 games. Look at the VORP is 4.5, 7.5, 9.1, 1 point. Basically, he's in comfortably like these games right here, crescendoing with the loss in New York. He's pretty much at all NBA level. Okay. OG gets traded. Bro, these numbers went through a fucking cliff.
Yep.
You know, they just went down.
They told him to be OG Anunoby.
Right. So his legs were dead. He wasn't making threes anymore. And these numbers they became profoundly negative. How good was he during our 3 wins? Let's see who was the catalyst for our three wins. Where the hell is the 3 win? Here we go. So 3 wins. Brooklyn, we won by 28. Or was he plus 28? Hold on, let me see this. So yeah, we did win by 28. That was a big win. Holy shit. So we beat them 121-93. Mikal Bridges had a terrible night. The Toronto Raptors were...
He's potentially a player we can get.
Mikal Bridges is a player we can get. So the Raptors were pretty much buoyed by elite performances by Gary Trent, Emmanuel Quickley, and Jordan Nwora off the bench. I do remember that game very clearly. Partially because it was against Dennis Schroeder, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that was good. And then
we had 3 games in a row with Dennis as a starting point guard.
Mm-hmm. And then you had Atlanta. You win by 2 there. Again, Scotty positive. Like, again, if I sum up these 3 games into a season, he's all NBA.
Also, for context, Brooklyn and Atlanta were the 2 teams ahead of us. These were big wins.
They were. In terms of what we were trying to do in the season at that moment, yeah, they were big wins. And what was our record after these games? I should try to figure that out here.
We after those 2 wins, I remember we were 3 games back of Atlanta for that last play.
Right.
We were 3 games back.
Right. And then, you know, and I mean, like, Scotty hit a low here, right? Like this game against San Antonio, which I unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how I see it, because it was a really big low point in Scotty's season. A negative 7.8 boxes minus, and trust me, you felt it. Like, you really felt it. He had a disaster game against San Antonio. And then, the media shitstorm, and he walks off the court, and three seconds to go in the game, he left, right? So there was that. But yeah, he was playing well. The Golden State game, he had a great game. His last game of the season, granted, he only played 15 minutes, but in that game, he had an 8.7 boxes minus. Like, he was on pace for a great game. So yeah, if he plays out the rest of the season, I really believe that if the Raptors turn it around and they make a play-in push, maybe, just maybe, he gets a few All-NBA votes.
I think the season he's going to have next year, I think non-Raptor fans, or at least people not on this community, are going to be shocked. I think they're really going to be shocked at the numbers, the impact, and how great he is. because I think as much as the Messiah was saying things, this is the first summer they're walking that walk.
I hope so.
Truly.
And look, like we haven't seen a ton of like Scotty Barnes, like in the gym working out stuff, but I assure you he's working real hard. Like he not stopped. And you know, I like the fact that he's sort of moving in silence this summer. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like he's really had no rah pump quotes. There's no like big videos. I'm not sure if he's doing live streams and Twitch stuff. I don't really follow him and I don't really follow that stuff, but there's a lot less like talking. The only talking we've even seen is him like just, straight up just saying we'll be better, I promise, right? Scotty Barnes doesn't break his promises though.
And
you know what I mean? Like he means it. Like he's saying that for a reason. This dude is committed. They've turned the franchise over to him. He's a grateful and very humble person. Like you always see that. He sees what they're doing for him, right?
Yep.
They turned the franchise keys over to him, and he may not have necessarily been like Owen McFarlane saying IQ been playing 2K, LOL. Yeah, I don't know about that, but that's cool. And yeah, like I think he's getting connected with his new teammates. I think like if he gives these guys a chance, he's going to find that his new set of teammates are much better people than his old set of teammates. No offense. And I kind of wonder if his proximity to Gary as a person is going to persuade them to maybe make a pitch for Gary. But I just don't think Gary's in the cards. Don't think he impacts the game nearly as much as we would like him to. But can't argue the fact that he brings shooting to a team that is sorely missing shooting, and maybe Gary does. Maybe Gary is just young enough that he has one big pop left in his game. I don't know. I doubt it though.
I doubt it. And the reason why I'm off Gary is he's going to have to come off the bench, and since he sucks at it, I'm just done with it. Because you're not a starter.
Yeah.
If you're a starter, we suck.
Can you think of a player who has started in the playoffs who's worse than Gary Trent Jr. for any team? That could be Andrew Nemhard. That could be, literally any.
Rui Hachimura?
It could be Rui Hachimura. Is there anyone?
I mean, what was Nick Batum, maybe? At this stage of his career?
Maybe. Yeah. I could see that.
By the way, Buddy Hield barely getting any run in Philly. That was weird. Or no?
He couldn't make a shot. He can't defend. It's tough shit. Would you?
Yeah, but they went to him in the end.
Is he a free agent?
They went to him in the end, right? They're like, save us.
Yeah. I gotta look up potential free agents on Spot Track. I'm just curious, like who is coming up. EA free agents. Okay, I gotta look this up.
While you do that, one thing that I'm excited about for Scotty is his trainer and the team. They have real tape to look over with Scotty to get better as the number one option. The intention he was getting, where he can attack, because I feel like in his first 2 years, a lot of the videos are, okay, yeah, you got to make your wide open threes. There wasn't a lot of things they can take from it. But
Agreed.
Now he was finally put in positions where he's the top dog. He's getting the attention of the defense. He's seeing everything. And it's like the growth he had post OG Pascal's trade, he grew in I swear, 10 games more than he did the entire second year.
Yeah,
Well,
so that's exactly it, right? Like technically he was a worse player, but he was a different player. He was worse at being a different type of player.
Yes.
So we finally got the answer to what would Scotty be if he had to do what Cade has to do, right? Without all the help, without all the gravity, without the go-to scorer, without all that, right? To start the season, we saw Scotty in the Jaylen Brown role. Kind of feast when the guy doesn't have it going, eat off of, the second defender, etc. What we got to see him later in was like the Jason Tatum role, or maybe even more so the Luka Doncic role. It's like, what do you do when teams like really?
He had a bigger burden, honestly.
Exactly. And so once you start putting that pressure on him, you're right. I think that's one of the most underrated things is like, that's something that Brian brought up too, is like, we didn't know what his role was going to be. night to night, it shifts. And so last year, going into the season, they trained for him to become the type of player who can play off of Pascal. So pull-up jumpers, and that's what he was doing. To begin the year, that's all he was doing, right? Everything was that. But now Pascal's gone. Now you get in the primary defender. You're not getting all that space to work. Teams are playing you off your spots because they've scouted your spots. Now where's your counter? And he got worse. So that's important because now he knows where to get better. And one more step, he's going to be 6 box plus minus as a first option. That is top 15 player in the league.
And
so,
with that ascent and him knowing what he needs to do, and the team has valuable tape on him, like tape that matters.
Facts.
Right? And then improve the roster around him. Oh my goodness. With players that fit around him.
Agree totally. These are the players who are available for free agency. Why am I not seeing OG? Okay, there I see OG Anunoby. So the names are LeBron, Paul George, not happening. Klay Thompson, not happening. Tobias Harris. I wouldn't do it, but I get it. James Harden, probably not happening. Pascal Siakam, definitely not happening. Gordon Hayward, probably not on the right timeline. 14-year vet. Kyle Lowry, I'd look at him as a third string, point guard, veteran guy off the bench. I'd love to look at it, but maybe Philly wants him back. He was starting for them in the fucking playoffs. That's worth noting.
I would love Kyle Lowry for Scotty.
DeMar DeRozan, probably not leaving Chicago, but if he's leaving Chicago, I feel like he's going to go home to LA. Buddy Hield. Would you explore Buddy Hield as a free agent?
No. I don't see the point. If you're letting Gary go, what the hell is the point of getting him?
Okay. Bruce Brown is our guy. We'll see what happens with him. Evan Fournier, he's going to be a team option that the Detroit Pistons are definitely going to decline unless they're insane. D'Angelo Russell, player option. Let's see if he declines. OG Anunoby, I'll bet my firstborn that he declines that player option. That's not, so that he's going to be a free agent. Gary Trent Jr., unrestricted. Markelle Fultz. I could look at Markelle Fultz.
Me too.
Really get behind a Markelle Fultz. Although the shooting concerns are still there. Jonas Valanciunas. I could explore a Jonas Valanciunas. Malik Beasley. I can get behind Malik Beasley. I can get behind Tyus Jones. I could potentially get behind Luke Kennard. For the right price, I could probably look at Doug McDermott, Gary Harris, Robert Covington. I think all these guys should be in play. Nicholas Batum, he's 35 years old, probably not in our cards, but I could look at him as a Thaddeus Young replacement. Taylor Horton Tucker, I shudder to think Masai Ujiri is having a wet dream thinking Taylor Horton Tucker is finally available.
Remember when the Lakers wouldn't trade him? They're like, oh yeah, they were haggling over Taylor Horton Tucker, and they ended up trading him to Utah for Patrick Beverly. My goodness.
Facts. Malik Monk. Now this is where we get into spicy territory where yes, like you could break the bank for Malik. And you could also break the bank for DeAnthony Melton.
Malik Monk is who we wanted Gary to be.
Yeah, but he's just a way, 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 way better athlete and passer, which is my two biggest concerns with Gary. You want to play transition offense, you need better decision makers. Then you have Isaiah Hartenstein. I wish to God we did not have Jakob Poeltl so we could actually make the $20 million offer for Isaiah Hartenstein.
Really limits. Like you can't even get JV. You already have Jakob. Like.
Yeah, I think, and you already have Kelly Olynyk, and both those guys are signed to long-term deals. So you're probably putting yourself out for centers unless you're trying to get a $20 million third-string center. DeAnthony Melton fits so well. I wonder what we would give for DeAnthony Melton.
I was going to say Isaac Okoro, but he's restricted.
Yes. Patrick Williams is also restricted. We go into Jeff Green territory. I like him.
What about Cedi Osman?
Interesting there. I think they keep him, but let's see what they do. Jayshawn Tate, interesting. Caleb Martin, player option, probably going to decline it. He's worth a little bit more than that given the success he's had. I hate watching Obi Toppin play basketball sometimes, bro.
Yeah,
but I know he knows Scotty, and
he ain't precious. And he ain't precious.
At least offensively, he's not precious, but defensively, he's not precious either. Jalen Smith, as a potential, Christian Coloco sort of backup, like the consolation prize. I like him as a rim protector. I'm not sure how I feel about him as a basketball player, but I like him as a rim protector and as a potential guy who can potentially shoot someday.
Jalen Smith,
mhm.
he can shoot. You know what he shot this year?
Yeah, I know. But like on what volume?
We don't need high volume.
Volume matters.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to only be taking wide open threes. And if he doesn't take any, that means they were guarding him. So he did his job.
How is he a third string center? Is it just an abundance of riches? And if he is so valuable and if we are so bullish on him, like, I mean, he had a 2.4 box plus minus this year and he's 23 years old. Like, he is flashing all sorts of positive analytics, bro.
Man,
like, this was his best year.
Worst way. We need talent in the worst way.
Yeah, we do. He had a 20.7 PER. He shot 68% true shooting. You know what I mean? His 3-point attempt rate is not bad. It hasn't necessarily gone up since his rookie season. It's around 36%. That is pretty high volume, actually. I stand corrected. It's very high volume, actually.
No, he's really good. He's really good. For what you're going to ask him to do and in the minutes he's going to play, he's really good. Man, Indiana, just
I watched him a lot.
I
watched him a lot in Maryland. I didn't think that he was a lottery pick, but then he kind of became one, and it's been interesting. Yeah. What would you throw at Jalen Smith? I mean, granted, he would be like he's coming off $5 million. Like, what are we throwing at Jalen Smith?
I would give him a 2 years, $16 million.
I don't think you're getting him for that. Like, you're giving Chris Boucher 2 years, 24. How are you giving him 2 years?
Well, we fucked up on that. We already know that was an overpay.
Well, that's the thing. That's the market now. I mean, is he really worth less than Kelly Olynyk right now? Bro, he's 24 years old.
What did Kelly make annually? 13?
12, I think.
All right, match Kelly then.
$12 million from Jalen Smith. So $12 million for a stretch big who can block shots. But isn't that impactful a defender? Isn't always in the right place. Doesn't really understand the game. And here's the thing. I say, with Jalen Smith, maybe the perfect type of player for Darko to develop. You know what I mean? He has that skill set of the stretch big already. He has the length and athleticism to already, do some of the stuff that you would need him to do in theory. Russell Westbrook, Kevin Love. Any interest? No. Eric Gordon, probably not. Sadiq Bey. Would you make a run at Sadiq Bey as a restricted free agent, and they can match?
Yeah, why not? I mean, he's not on the top of my list.
As a Gary Trent potential cheap replacement, yeah, I could see it. He would be a defensive upgrade by a bit on him as well. I mean, just looking at guys, if I sort by age, just to get clear picture on guys who sort of fit our timeline, guys who don't, make the cutoff, age 27. I hope it allows me to sort by age. It does. Great. So the youngest free agent is Amani Bates. Great. Apart from, okay, so here are the youngest guys. Imani Bates, Amari Bailey, those are all restricted free agents. Unrestricted, Kendall Brown. Nope. Unrestricted, Kenyon Martin Jr., Philadelphia. Jalen Horton Tucker, Utah.
Tucker can't shoot. He cannot shoot.
Yeah, he has super long arms and he can't shoot. Luka Samanic for the Utah Jazz. Interesting player. Can shoot a little bit. Bol.
I liked what I saw from Cam Reddish defensively.
Yes, I did too.
Right?
Yeah. I always appreciate guys who can sort of turn themselves into a different type of player. What about Goga Batiste? Now you really wish you didn't have two centers on your fucking roster, because Goga's 24 and a half, and he's actually he was good this year. Nick Claxton is another guy who fits that. Now you get into Gary Trent Jr., Xavier Tillman, Lonnie Walker.
Lonnie Walker
didn't have the greatest season, man. Then you get Jordan Nwora, who is, I thought for some reason, so here's the crazy thing. I looked at Jordan Nwora's, draft measurables. Fun fact, came into the draft with one of the highest body fat percentages in the entire draft. Not far behind him was Emmanuel Quickley. Kind of crazy. Really weird. Also, I went and checked that partially because someone told me that Jordan Nwora was actually like 6'8", 6'9", because they met him. He measured in about 6'6". So, Miles Bridges. Yikes. Not going to touch that. Mo Bamba. Okay. Again, in terms of reclamation projects, is Mo Bamba worth a look? And then you have Isaiah Hartenstein. I don't know if he leaves CAA and their system, but that's one guy. Svi Mihailovic, Derek Jones Jr., unrestricted free agent. Malik Beasley, 27 years old. Hayward Highsmith. I really liked what I saw from Highsmith this year. Also, at times have liked what I've seen from Shake Milton as like a third string, take a swing. Tyus Jones is interesting if you look for a change of pace backup guard, but I don't necessarily want a backup guard who can't play with Emmanuel Quickley. He would cost quite a bit. Would you take a swing at Kelly Oubre?
Yeah.
In place of Gary Trent Jr.?
He's better.
Marginally, yes. He is better.
He's way better defensively. Way better.
Yeah. And then boom, that's pretty much the end of, guys who are under 28 in terms of unrestricted free agents.
Taurean Prince. I mean, he can slot in, give you some nice versatility, some defense, some shooting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I really like, I also, bring him back. Mo Wagner, team option, probably.
Jeff Doughton.
They're picking that up. Jeff Doughton, definitely bring him back. Sam Hauser, club option, they're picking that up 100%. He's on a steal of a deal, but they're not going to be paying. They're not going to really be able to pay him after that. Jose Alvarado, another guy on an expiring. I don't know. O'Shea Brissett, he's on a player option. He could decline that. I mean, would you bring O'Shea back? I think there is like this. Like I try to gauge like what the Raptors do based on what they've done in the past. They do like they don't close the door on bringing people back. So I've never closed the door on maybe them bringing back a Delano Banton.
I would love Delano Banton back on this team.
Now that you've seen him splash a whole bunch of threes in Portland, huh?
Well, I always liked him.
That's fair.
He came out his rookie year gangbusters. Remember? Nurse would just throw him in there, and he just grab a rebound and just was the road runner.
Yeah, but he couldn't stop. And I mean, the crazy thing about Delano Banton is like, he reminds me a lot of like an imperfect version of a player that I've been hyping up a lot, which is Nikola Topic. Obviously, Topic is a way, way, way better passer. He's younger. He's like a more, I don't want to say a more fluid athlete, but he's like a more functional athlete. But yeah, like this concept of like a wing guard who can sort of handle the ball and get into the paint relentlessly, super valuable. So yes, the Raptors are pretty good at drafting, apparently. Who knew? They're not great at keeping those guys around. They identified Jeff Doughton. Jeff Doughton catches on with the Philadelphia 76ers. They identified, Delano Banton. Delano Banton catches on with the Portland Trailblazers. They identified O'Shea Brissett. O'Shea Brissett is playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, go figure. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam. Like, how many more stamps of approval does Masai Ujiri? That's why I'm so excited about this draft too. I can't wait to see what they get at 19 and 30 and 31, man. Anyways, it's 2:51. We gotta wrap this up, but. Thanks a lot for calling in. Appreciate it as always. Any final thoughts?
Boston, Dallas.
And, who would you pick?
I'd honestly go with Dallas.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I got Dallas.
If you're Boston,
Dallas and 6. I'm gonna go Dallas and 6. Dallas and 6, and then Dallas and 6 again. So I'm picking Dallas and 6 both series.
I would agree. And if you're Boston, and you don't win this year, and you're looking at the pay sheet, it's going to be hard to justify it because it's not going to get any easier than this. This is the easiest year they will probably ever get.
Boston?
Like the
Yeah,
most
they've had a
opportunity.
cakewalk. They've had a cakewalk to the finals. And I feel like a lot of people are saying that means that they won't be tested. Sorry, that means they'll be super rested. But I'm like, they haven't been tested yet. And it's like, they've never even been remotely threatened. There's not any doubt. I don't think like Boston has been favored to win every single series that they've been a part of. Like 100-2 or like 50-1 type of odds the entire way through. Even when they lost game 2 against Cleveland and they lost game 2 against Miami, which is like supposed to be devastating. If any other team lost their home court advantage that early in the series, people would be like, oh my God, it's over. No one ever had that feeling with Boston. It was never over, ever. Right? And then compound it, you have injuries as well. So not only did you face teams that had no business facing you in the first place, but a lot of people throw that as shade against the number 1 seed. And I'm like, bro, that's why you get the number 1 seed. You get the number 1 seed so that you can face the 8th seed and then the 4 seed, right? So why is everyone always so surprised when the number 1 seed has a bit of a cakewalk to the fucking finals? You know what I mean? They earned it. That's why they got the number 1 seed. They didn't get the number 1 seed to have the hardest road to the finals. No one would want number 1 seed if that happened, right?
I mean, this is a ridiculous easy path, but it is what it is.
You play who's in front of you, right? Like
Yeah.
I think if you, like, my opinion is if you play, because of the way bracket's set up, if you're the 3rd team in like the conference, chances are you're probably going to have like the toughest path, or the 4th team, because right away you're evenly matched with your opponent because you finished like right next to them, you know? So like you take like a Dallas Clippers, you know, like who did Dallas face in the first round? Clippers. So they had the Clippers in the first round, and Minnesota had the Suns. Like those are both teams that had real championship odds, and you had to face them in the first round. That was your first fucking introduction to the playoffs. And then in the second round, Dallas takes on OKC, and Minnesota takes on the defending champions. Like, I will guarantee you the Boston does not face a single team as good as the Phoenix Suns until they get to the finals. No team as good as the OKC Thunder, no team as good as the Denver Nuggets, no team as good as the Dallas Mavericks, no team. So these teams have had to go through 3 rounds of teams that are better than anything Boston's played in 2 months.
I mean, look
They're
at
going to be
Denver's
sharper.
Look
They're
at
going to be
Denver's
sharper.
Look at Denver's path. I mean, just no easy games. I mean, besides the blowout here and there.
Oh, Denver had the hardest path. Like I was saying,
yeah.
if Denver makes it to the finals and wins, they will have gone from one of the easiest paths ever last year to the hardest path I think I've ever seen in my life this year. Lakers, Minnesota, Dallas.
I think of the top 4 seeds. I think of the top 4 seeds in the West, Denver by far had the hardest first round matchup.
Agreed. You think the Lakers were a tougher matchup than the Clippers?
Yes, because Clippers had no Kawhi, and he was by far their best player and most reliable playoff performer.
In fairness, every game they won without Kawhi.
Yeah, but again, I felt like
healthy Kawhi versus unhealthy Kawhi. I feel like sometimes, you know, you go back and you think about that Knicks series, and you ask yourself, do the Knicks have a chance if OG doesn't play 4 minutes in Game 7? It's the same thing with the Clippers series, right? And I'm not saying Clippers would have had a chance, but they really, really blew the snot off this Mavericks team. They did. Like, I watched it. And that Clippers team was real. Like, James Harden was cooking, and then suddenly he couldn't do anything. And it's just like, people say Luka's a white James Harden. They really don't understand that Luka's better. Luka's better than James Harden. I'm not a James Harden hater. I've always liked James Harden. I've defended him when no one defended him. But Luka's better. He's way better, actually. He's not a little bit better. He's way better.
But you always talk about IQ being the number 1 most important thing. The reason why I feel like Luka can play hobbled, right? Jokic doesn't use speed or athleticism. LeBron can play at 40 and be easily a top 10 player still,
Mhm.
is they just affect the game in so many ways. They don't need to score a basket. They could be hobbled and still be amazing.
Size
Kawhi's
doesn't
not in
age.
that area.
Exactly.
Kawhi's more of a scorer, and if he can't do what he is designed to do at an all-time great level,
Mhm.
he's almost a detriment at this point.
Well, here's the thing, like, Tim Duncan was very, very, very good at 35.
Mhm.
Like, he was still a starting center in the NBA. There are some guys, like Hakeem Olajuwon, up until the final Rocket season, was still a positive on the court. I think he was 37 or 38. It's just not the case for most guards. Most guards have a fall off that starts at 30 to 31. See, because a lot of guards rely on quickness. But a guy like Steph Curry, he's not going to have the same fall off that a guy like Russell Westbrook or Stephon Marbury had, because his game was never predicated on that. His game is predicated on skill, and skill doesn't diminish at the same pace as physical abilities. LeBron's interesting because LeBron, I think, did rely a lot on his athleticism, but he harnessed his athleticism and then he morphed his game. Michael Jordan's the same way. Jordan was a completely different player. Like, if you only watch Jordan in the 90s, you don't remember Jordan in the 80s. Jordan in the 80s was like, yikes, human highlight film, right? He was in the air all the time. Jordan in the 90s was parked in the mid post, like doing turnaround jumpers. Like, it wasn't the same type of player. They adjusted their game. It's the same thing with Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant with, like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 was a lot more run, jump, freakish athletic stuff. And then later on, it became more about craft. I think it helps guys, who start out in the craft department to age better, like DeMar DeRozan, Paul Pierce, where even at their athletic peak, they never really harnessed their athleticism as their surgical advantage. They always dissected the defense. They chose to study the game.
They weren't that kind of athlete in terms
Well,
of.
I mean, DeMar was a pretty good athlete in high school. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, he was in a dunk contest, so he's a bit of a vertical athlete, maybe not as much of a reach and a horizontal and strength athlete, but his game is predicated on skill. And so he got better. DeMar continues to age. Like, he's aging like fine wine. DeMar's awesome, but he's not as quick as he was when he was 21, 22. How is he as good? And that's where I look at guys like Pascal Siakam. And I see the skill work that he has, and he's getting a lot of kudos for it on the national stage. But none of those skills work if you take away the quickness. I watched this guy hobbled a little bit with that hamstring injury, and I watched him get completely shut down by Jaylen Brown. And I tell you, a lot of people had like very negative reactions to Pascal. Some of them racist, some of them very derogatory, some of them horrible. I did not have that reaction to Pascal Siakam because I'm not that person. But I did have a reaction of, this cannot be your focal point of your franchise. I cannot have a franchise player get cooked this way because he has a sore hamstring. It just can't happen. Whatever his issue was with the bubble, like he's rusty, or I think he's coming back from an injury or something. My point is, when athleticism, when your advantages go, you have to rely on your counters. And for a lot of people, their counter is their size, their strength, their intelligence, their craft. But you got to make up for that difference somewhere else. Jordan made up for that athleticism through his craft. When James Harden is out of shape, James Harden is useless. He's pretty useless. His craft is his intelligence are top notch, but he becomes a completely different player when he's out of shape. But if Luka comes in out of shape, or Nikola Jokic comes in out of shape, they're still great players. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They could be better. So it's just like, yeah, like, so this is one of the big reasons I think Scotty's going to age so well, because he's not running and jumping past you right now. He's 22. He's still not doing it right now. Everything is surgical with him. Everything is dissecting the defense, finding the advantage, prodding, pushing. So yeah, I don't know. I'll look back on the Pascal Siakam stuff, I think 3-4 years from now, and I think I'm going to say I was right. I think I'm going to say I was right about him. But I'm very curious. I'm always very curious.
I just never liked the fact when we had Pascal as our number one.
Mm-hmm.
Defenders, the confidence they had of just getting a stop on him, like they just were like, "Oh, here we go. I got this. Don't worry, guys." Like a guy like Marcus Smart would just smirk. He's like, "Oh, this guy's trying to score in a high leverage situation on me. Good luck, buddy."
I'm very
Like, there
curious
was
to see what he does tomorrow if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't play. What if he puts up 40?
again, you said this and I agree. You said this and I agree. If he has 40, it's because they don't care that he has 40.
Yeah, but tomorrow they got to care if he has 40, right? I mean, it's one thing when Tyrese Halliburton's playing. Okay, if I'm a coach and Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam are on the other team, I will design every single scheme to make sure that Tyrese Halliburton is not initiating that offense, which means baiting Siakam to initiating the offense and going ISO and trusting that I'm going to win the battle. He might win the war. Sorry, he might win the battle, but I'm going to win the war on that matchup. Tomorrow, though, if Pascal Siakam plays and Tyrese Halliburton doesn't, now he is the thing that you need to stop. So now I'm curious how they play that. Are they going to continue to go one-on-one with him? Is Al Horford going to 37-year-old Al Horford, is he going to continue to be Pascal Siakam's primary? Bro, that dude cannot, he's not a mobile east-west athlete right now. Like, who the fuck? Or are you finally going to say, okay, we're putting Drew Holiday and Jason Tatum on this guy and we're shutting him down. We're shutting the water off. You know what I mean? We're going to force Andrew Nembhard. I think, here's the thing. People think that the Pacers are cooked without Tyrese Halliburton. I think they got one win in them. I think they're going to steal one. And I think it's going to come off like a really, really, really huge Andrew Nembhard game. I have a feeling. It's just a feeling. And it could happen tomorrow. It really could happen tomorrow.
Speaking of him, speaking of Andrew Nembhard, I'm just do you ever think to yourself, man, we couldn't get one of these young guys, just one? We're not talking about Jarris Walker. We couldn't get one. Like, we couldn't get one. My God.
I think they really like their young players, man.
We couldn't get one. I mean, you can't pay all of them. We couldn't get one.
We got 3 draft picks. We got 3 firsts. And we got the very, very valuable Jordan Nwora. and the massively convertible contract of Bruce Brown. And we got this for, by my estimation, a 30-year-old who's not a top 30 player in the league. Top 25 player in the league.
So you're saying fair value? You're saying fair value?
I'm not saying it's fair value. The Raptors got ripped off, but it's not by as much as people like to say. I don't think he's. How much do you think he's worth? You think he's worth 4 first-round picks?
We couldn't get.
You think he's worth 5? Okay, here's a question for you. If I take off 2 of those first-round picks, let's say I take off number 19 this year and I take off the OKC pick this year, so you just get my 2026 pick. Are you settling for Jalen Smith? Do you feel happier? You get expiring. Okay, so you obviously want Jarris Walker or Andrew Nembhard or Aaron Nesmith. And it's like, those guys are so integral. Jarris is integral to my future. And Andrew Nembhard. So I think here is the compromise. I feel like, I understand Kevin Pritchard pretty well over the years. I've known stuff, I guess, known of him and spoken to him many times. Like, it's like, 20 years now, 18 years now. So I have a feeling that the conversation went something like, if we're going to pay Pascal Siakam what he wants, we need all these young players on these contracts. Now here's the caveat here. If you're the Raptors and you really like these guys, Indiana's not a huge market team. They can't afford to pay all these guys. If they have Pascal and Tyrese on the books and that's their dynamic duo going forward, bro, with Tyrese Halliburton making All-NBA this year, that is a hell of a book. That is a hell of a book for a small market team to pay.
And he made sure he limped to that finish line.
Yes, he did. And I don't necessarily blame him. $41 million is like, fuck you money. Like, it's like life-changing money. $41 million is like, dude, like, did Scottie Pippen make $41 million in his entire career? Like, this is crazy money, right? $41 million. Like, I don't blame him. Well, he played like 20 minutes in certain games or whatever just to get him there.
They need to change this All-NBA pay scale. Because
I agree. They definitely should. But I also don't think he necessarily deserved to be All-NBA.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, you made 1 All-NBA third team. You're telling me you're getting paid the same as Luka, who's made 5 first teams? Like, they need to balance this stuff out. It's like, you want you want 35%, you need to make at least 2 firsts, or you need to make, like, there has to be a scale. Like, You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you
I think
suck in on a third team.
I think the scale is already there because they've assured that every team can only have one, right?
I guess.
So, like, there's a limit. I
Like, no,
believe,
one's
if I'm not
super-
mistaken, every team can have one, right? Like, I don't know if is it every team can have one or no. It's not every team can have one. It's if you already have one, you can't trade for one. Something like that. There's some sort of contract
But
clause
you
like that.
understand what I'm saying? It's like there's no way Jaylen Brown should be making as much as.
No, I agree with you. And honestly, people saying he got snubbed, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, he did not get snubbed. He did not get snubbed.
There were arguments.
The fact that he was a 16th player should show you that this voting process is completely crazy. Also, Joel Embiid, 65 games be damned. Like, he was by far one of the top 5 players in the league this year.
Yeah.
He
But
might
he
have been
hasn't
the
been nearly
third
enough.
best player in the league this year. Like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Where should the cutoff be? Where would you put the games cutoff?
I don't know if I would have one. I get it. I understand why the league is doing it.
There has to be.
Historically, there wasn't.
There's a minimum there's a minimum game. There's always been a minimum game to qualify for
here's
the
the question. Okay, what if it comes down to this? Let's say Joel Embiid, played 64 games this year. Let's just say hypothetically, but he played 64 games at like MVP level, which is true. He did, right? And let's just say the guy who gets the 65 mark is Tyrese Halliburton or Jaylen Brown, who played 65 games at not an MVP level. Are you telling me that Joel Embiid deserves that less? You know what I mean? Like, maybe there should be a minutes cutoff, but not a games cutoff. Maybe you should have to play a certain amount of minutes in a season. Like, that would be my solution to amend this, which means that
Scotty would have qualified.
Maybe Scotty would have qualified, actually, if it was minutes. Yeah, probably he would have.
The discourse was, I remember listening to Bill Simmons. Obviously, he's a homer, but Jaylen Brown had a better season than Devin Booker.
No, he didn't.
I don't think so either. And if you,
I don't even like Devin Booker.
Yeah,
no, he didn't.
and if you would ask somebody straight up, who's a better player, Devin Booker or Jaylen Brown?
Most people would say Devin Booker.
Yeah.
He's just more complete. I think like people get too caught up in the moment. Like the people saying that Anthony Edwards is better than Luka Doncic. Those people getting just caught up in the moment. People saying Jalen. I love Jalen Brunson. He's not a top 6 player in the league. Like, people need to get the help.
Was Tatum All NBA first team? I mean, Jason Tatum, was he All NBA first team to you? I don't think he was.
Who makes it in over him? And God help me if you say DeMontis Sabonis, I'm gonna fucking.
Oh no. I think his stats are inflated on how they use him. Legit, the ball flows through him every single time.
I think he's super underrated defensively. And I think people focus too much on what he can't do offensively. I think he's an underrated passer and an underrated defender, and I'll be curious to see if he can rise to the moment in the finals. I suspect he will. Yeah, I'm not sure who that 5th guy would be. Mohammed Khan saying obviously LeBron James.
All I'm saying is when you look at the first team, someone sticks out as clearly the 5th guy.
Oh, for sure, but there's no shame in that. I mean, he's only there because Joel Embiid didn't miss the cutoff. That's it. If Joel Embiid doesn't miss the cutoff, Joel Embiid is on first team. They banished the position shit.
Yeah.
Entirely. I won't say entirely because Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic were the 2 best players in the league last year, and they both couldn't make it. And Nikola Jokic made a 2nd team All NBA last year, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
That happened. I'm not dreaming.
No.
One day we will go back and say what the fuck happened there.
One
of the greatest players of all time.
All the white people made sure to. All the white boys made sure to let us know they weren't racist. So they had to. You know what I'm saying? They were cornered.
Dude, it's never shocked me like how defensive white people get about racism when there is a potential to be called racist. There is this the trucker who killed 16 people because he ran a stop sign. You remember that? It was in 2018. It's not just 16 people. It was a 16. I think it was hockey people. So it was like a team of like Pee-wee hockey or something like that. And he's Indian. I don't remember his name, but he getting deported now, right? The rules in Canada are very clear on this, right? Oak Tree saying Humboldt, correct. So, the rules on this are pretty clear. If you're not a permanent resident, you're not a citizen, you commit a crime of this magnitude, that you get an 8-year sentence, which is what he got, 8 years, then you get deported. Those are the rules, right? But people saying he getting deported, that's racist. You know what I mean? It's just like people pound on their drums, and it's just like, bro, like there is a part of this that's like, number one, that's the law. Number two, maybe it's something for the community that lost these 16 kids. You know, like, I mean, it was a terrible, terrible accident, and I'm sure he didn't mean to do it. And he waived his defense, and he straight up just went right to it. And he was just like, okay, I accept it. I apologize. I fucked up big time. He ran a stop sign. Could have happened to anybody. No one is saying hang the guy, right? But if the law is that you get deported after 8 years, sorry, I apologize. 16 killed, 13 injured. Like, the magnitude of it is not like anyone could run a stop sign. Like, my girlfriend complains that people in my area run stop signs all the fucking time. They are not driving a giant 18-wheeler on an open road, right? Driving like crazy high, mileage. They're driving an SUV at 20 kilometers an hour. But like, yeah, I mean, but people will use that opportunity to be like, oh, he's only being deported because he's Indian. It's like, but he's actually being deported because it's the law. But it's just like the fact that they get to say that, it's almost like they're trying to virtue signal and say, hey, look at me. I'm one of the good white people. Bro, like, find a different way to be an ally.
I mean,
I don't know.
The term ally is now that's just a catchphrase, ally. It's a term that's meaningless. It's like, I'm going to say things but do nothing. I'm an ally.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yo, like, I never understood, like, personally, it's just kind of growing up, I never understood, like, those, I don't understand hating yourself. You know what I mean? Like, these people who just walk around saying sorry for stuff, like, all the time they're saying sorry, like, sorry. Here's a news flash for some people who want me to say sorry about some stuff. I'm like, bro, I'm an immigrant. Last I checked, Serbs didn't have anything to do with what happened in this country, 20, 30, generations ago. I didn't do that. Okay. I certainly I wasn't born. Right. Some people just walk around like apologizing for, it's one thing to acknowledge it. Is I acknowledge that there are certain privileges to looking a certain way, being born in certain countries. But these people who walk around like just constantly all day hating on themselves, I don't understand that. And I just wonder if there is some part of them that is deeply, deeply racist, that they feel the need to overcompensate so much by going around and acting like they're not. Like, to me, like, everything Kendrick said about Drake, I understood that implicitly. I'm not black, but I understood it implicitly. Everything he said, like, about the history, about the culture vulture stuff, every bit of that, I understood it implicitly. And then there's people in this world, it's just like, that shit is just totally lost on them. I don't know. This is like a 3 a.m. conversation. I'm ranting, but like,
I'm when I see white guilt, it's just like for things you were not a part of. It's just weird. It's like,
yeah, it's like acknowledge you have some privilege for sure. Do not walk around saying like this shit is not real, and and definitely do not go up to somebody of color and act like their pain is not real. That's one thing to acknowledge that. It's another thing to walk around literally like, saying I'm bad because I'm no.
I'm not allowed. No, this is what it gets weird, where it's like, I'm not allowed to say anything about anything.
Right.
I have no voice. I'm not allowed to have a voice.
You know who gets canceled? You know who gets canceled? People who allow themselves to get canceled. Serious, straight up. Like there are tons of people. Like look at some of the crazy fucking figures that we have in this world, right? These people should be canceled, right? Andrew Tate should be canceled. Donald Trump should be canceled. A lot of these people have said some fucking crazy ass shit. I've certainly never walked around calling African countries shithole countries because I don't think that. But like, if I even thought that and I said it, you know what I mean? Like, these people just say whatever the fuck they want. Andrew Tate just goes around saying like, yeah, women are garbage. Women are this. And it's just like, whoa, he's not canceled. He won't allow himself to be canceled, right? He just doesn't allow himself to be canceled. These people just, so it's like these people who get canceled and these other people just walk around all day just worrying that anything they say is going to get canceled.
Yeah, I know. When really, I know.
But it's like the world we're living in is so sick. Like I watch a whole bunch of people vilify Kyrie Irving, and I've never veered away from him. It got real hard. I gotta be honest. Being a Kyrie defender got real hard like 3-4 years ago when he started going flat earth on everybody. And it became harder and harder to defend him as the evidence on him and the controversies mounted against him. I gotta be honest, I used to kind of defend Ben Simmons. I thought he didn't get a fair shake sometimes too. There's too many times in this world that I have seen like good people get vilified for things. And I'm just like, maybe I'm tired of letting CNN and sports media and Fox News and all these people make moral judgments for me. It's like, who the fuck are they to make that judgment? You know what I mean?
Yep. And the way Kyrie was treated for the vaccine was disgusting.
Straight up. Straight up. Like absolutely, bro. I participated in a COVID think tank for 3 months. I walked away with some pretty, like it just, I don't think I've ever shared this on a live, and I hope like no one too serious is listening because I don't think I'm supposed to talk about this. But we did like, so basically, this was like, I want to say a couple weeks into the pandemic, things started to get really bad. And obviously I'm from Eastern Europe, and Eastern European countries were disproportionately poorly equipped to deal with this kind of stuff. A friend of mine reached out to me from hedge fund days, and he said, hey, Rob, you're great with numbers and stuff. We need you to run some data models on, how this pandemic is spreading, because it's spreading faster than anyone thought it would. It's really horrible, etc. And I had a lot of time off. Film industry is shut down. Live events are shut down. I got time in the world. So I was like, hey, I made a promise to myself. I was like, one day my kid is going to ask me, if I have a kid, one day my kid is going to ask me, what did you do during this time when the world shut down? And instead of hoarding toilet paper and it's sort of freaking out, I was like, I'm going to do something. So I did something. I worked my ass off for 3 months, learned everything I could about this pandemic, talked to some of the smartest people in the world, talked to the first doctors who found it in Wuhan, China, talked to their daughter in San Francisco, who's fucking brilliant and is still a friend of mine till to this day. Talked to so many people, and people who are just way smarter than me. Bro, I promise you, I came away from that thinking 90% of these people did not get vaccinated. Smartest people running models, people treating shit at the hospital. I don't know if they did or didn't. It's not something we talked about too much. 90% of these people did not express bullish sentiments about the vaccine. So if Kyrie Irving did not express bullish sentiments about the vaccine, but Justin Trudeau told me I had to take it, but one guy is dangerous and the other guy is like, you know what I mean? Like it didn't make sense to me. So yeah.
That I lost so much respect for the Nets organization. With that, like
I never had any respect for the Nets organization.
No, but
Zero.
What the owner, that list of demands, I was like, go fuck yourself.
Absolutely.
Who are you, God? Fuck off.
These guys have like plantation mentality. They may not have been there. Their descendants may not have been there, but that's their mindset. I've met a lot of people with plantation mentality. I just have. They treat you like that. They treat you like you should be, like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I think LeBron's articulated this way better than I ever could. But yeah, there are some dudes with that mentality, and they could be really rich dudes, and it's their perspective. I remember, who was it? Melania Trump, right? Talking about her life as a supermodel who travels in these big buildings and whatever, right? And then just, up to the 80th floor of one building, down into the limo, up to the 50th floor of another building. And she described looking down at people, and not in a literal way, but like actually in a literal way, looking off her balcony and just seeing people. And I was like, this is how she experiences the world. She experiences the world with her at 50 feet or 50 stories up, and the world is just ants. And that's her perception of the entire universe. Like that's how she sees the world. So that's what I'm saying. Like, certain people like Josai and those people, Vivek Ranadive. I mean, you may not see those guys as oppressors of any sort because they are people, they're minorities. But understand, you don't just. I've never met a person who amassed $50 billion or $20 billion or $10 billion in their hands are squeaky clean. All of these people had to do some crazy ass shit to make that money. None of these people invented the cure to cancer and then they got all that money. It's not pure altruism. It's all business. It's all, all this shit. So they had to have that mentality. And it's weird, but the truth is Kyrie Irving is just a very expensive employee to Josai. He is a human being to his friends and family. He is, he's a great player to his fans. He's an idol. He's a brand ambassador. He's a spiritual leader to some people, but to Josai, he's just an investment, right? That's where the plantation stuff comes in, is when you remove the humanity and you just see the investment. That's where that mentality comes in, especially when we're talking about people of color. So that's where it gets very sensitive. And when you start talking about like people like Dan Gilbert and some of the shit that he said about LeBron on his way out, I think a lot of people, frankly, had a right to be looking at him some type of way, be like, bro, like that's some shit right there.
He would have never said that today.
You mean in today's, culture? But like, bro, he shouldn't have said it back then.
I know, but it would have been. And now that I'm thinking about it, the way Kyrie is beloved by the NBA community and the players, the way Josai treated him, bro, ain't nobody going to Brooklyn. Ain't nobody running over to Brooklyn.
Facts. And honestly, like what they did, resting all their players against Milwaukee, that effectively ended their season. They never, ever recovered from that. Ever. They played their full roster against Detroit on a back-to-back. Beat Detroit both games because they wanted to avoid being the team that lost to Detroit. And then they rested their entire starters, like all their starters, against Milwaukee. A team that was competing with them. They were thinking playoffs at that time. And people don't believe this, but the Nets were like in the upper echelon of the East to start the year. And the shit just fell apart. Spencer Dinwiddie didn't want to be there. And that's the problem, bro. Like, I mean, people don't understand like the ethics of Masai and the, Bobby Webster and being such stable people. But man, nobody's walking away from this organization saying this is a dumpster fire. They treated me horrible. They lied to me. They fucked me over. They promised me money. They didn't pay me. They made some crazy ass demands on my family. No one's walking away from that. And that's good. Because there's that type of shit is out there about the Kings. That type of shit's out there about the Cavs. That type of shit's out there about the Knicks, the Nets. And there's so many organizations that have some very, very troubling figures in their front office. So I'm kind of like appreciative of the fact that for now the Raptors don't have that. Yeah. Anyways, man, I gotta get going, man. It's like 3:30 in the morning. Holy shit! But great talk.
All right, man. Later.
Yeah. All right. Peace. All right. Really late talk. I don't know who's getting through this tomorrow, but kudos to you if you did. We made it to Austin 316. Shout outs to Stone Cold Steve Austin 316. We made it to 3 hours and 16 minutes into this live. Please hit like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I am very, very tired at this point. Good luck tomorrow. I'm very interested to see Boston versus Indiana. I streaky suspect that Indiana will pull out one win in one of these two home wins. They have not lost in Indiana yet. So I wonder if Tyrese Halliburton plays. I suspect he'll give it a go. But we'll see. And if he plays, I give him a shot. And if he doesn't play, I still give him a shot because this is the Celtics. And the Celtics have a self-sabotage streak that is undefeated. All right. Dallas in 6. Peace, guys.